Before the podcast begins, I just want to say a few quick things. Firstly, there are no spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2 here. That's why the comments are also off, so don't worry about that. Secondly, if you want an audio-only version, it will be up on SoundCloud. Link is in the description. And finally, I apologise for how the audio isn't exactly perfect. We tested it and it was fine, but OBS decided to, for some reason, record the desktop audio twice, which causes a slight echoey sound for the other people. I did what I could, but yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the podcast.
What are you doing, kiddo? You really gonna go through with this? You think I'd let you do this on your own?
Hello everybody and welcome to The Last of Us, A Conversation, a once-off spoilercast about the original game and Left Behind, and with speculations for the long-awaited sequel. Today I am joined with some great mates of mine, Mario5380 Modorox, and Caitie.
Hello.
Hey.
Gaming.
Gaming indeed. Mario and Ben have played the game for the first time this year, and personally it is my favourite game of all time, since the first time I played it back in 2013. So I was thinking having this type of spoilercast with people who've played it for the first time this year is a really good way to discuss the game instead of making a video. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So where do we go?
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you for watching. It's just finished.
Been a
All right.
pleasure. Cheers for having me on, Kacper.
Oh, no
It's been a
problem.
blast.
Yeah,
Oh, that
thanks
was
for having
great.
me, Kacper. It's been a blast.
Quickest podcast ever. Alright, so obviously, The Last of Us released in June of 2013, developed by Naughty Dog, directed by Neil Druckmann and Bruce Tarley, announced in December of 2011, and then re-released on PS4 on July 29th and August 1st in America and Europe in 2014. So, guys, your first time playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Quick,
the
give me a quick thoughts. Overall.
okay. Well, first off, the fucking Ben decided to play Last of Us.
Ben.
Yeah, fucking Ben.
Fucking that's your
And I was like,
fucking
well,
Ben.
you know, the new game's coming out. I'm gonna play it as well. Ben started a bit earlier than me, but somehow I still managed to finish it first.
I mean, you played it in one weekend, essentially.
Yeah, I played it I played it in like 2 days. Because
Yeah, I mean, I still have a job, so
yeah, I don't have a life, so that's the difference. Really.
Exactly.
No, but like all the way through, from the very beginning, like the opening of the game. First off,
Yeah, that's where we're going to start
Very-
anyway, so.
yeah, very intense. Like
that was literally the word I used.
yeah,
Just kicks off from the get-go.
Yeah.
yeah, but like you first get introduced to Sarah, which is the daughter of Joel, and then you see Joel, and oh, happy family,
Played
There's
by
no
Hannah
modern-
Hayes. Fun fact. She's played by Hannah Hayes.
No idea who Hannah
Oh,
is.
Max have started already.
Oh god.
Oh,
Here we go.
She's in a
Brilliant.
bunch of different movies, like Insidious and stuff. She's To the Bone. To the Bone is a pretty alright movie. Has Lily Collins. But yeah, no, but
Yeah,
her
okay.
acting was great in the game. Well, the part of
Yeah.
the game she was in.
And then they see they have a real bond together. It's Joel's birthday, and then fucking Tommy wakes you up, and you get that entire fucking chaos. For example, Sarah goes to Joel's room, and you see the news, and then immediately you see an explosion.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was like, "Oh shit, this is fucked," and like you get straight into that feeling of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so overall, I found the game to be one of the best games I've ever played in terms of story, specifically. I love the story, love the characters, and yeah, that's basically it for me.
I was pretty similar to Mario in the sense that I start off the game and from right from the start, you're like, all right, there's no fucking around here. Like shit happens in these games. 'Cause obviously, just after the bit Mario was talking about when you've got to carry Sarah
yeah.
around like the fucked up town or whatever, this fucked up city, and the guy comes along and you hear the dialogue, oh, but she's just a child or whatever, and he fucking shoots the kid. So it really sets the tone that like shit happens
Yeah.
in this game. Like there's no fucking about, there's no plot armor, like people can die. And if you want me to talk about the entire game, I played the Uncharted games for the first time this year as well. My first experience of Naughty Dog games ever, so I've really delved deep this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say, in terms of story, The Last of Us just has to be one of the best I've ever played, even including the Uncharted games. Like, the way that Joel sort of goes back to that, like, I don't give a shit type person after you see Sarah die, and it goes a few years forward or whatever to when they're living in the quarantine zones, and Joel, you can see how much it's affected him. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about anything anymore. He just wants to get his money or whatever his what was it, the guns that they ordered.
Russian card.
Yeah.
Exactly. They just want to get that, and over the course of the game, he almost develops to how he was back at the start. Where he's caring about someone else, which I thought was genius. Really, I really like the way they did that.
Yeah, the character development of Joel is it's beautiful. Like, we'll get into it during the actual game, like when we're talking through the game. But there are scenes like when Joel goes back after you play as Ellie and you're with David and you're captured, and then Joel like wakes back up. He after being gone for how many days, whatever. After when he falls and he gets basically he gets the pole through his stomach, and he just wakes up and he's going through the town, killing everyone on his way, and he captures those two guys. And like in that moment, you can see like he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like he just wants to get back to Eddie. Like he cares about it. Like when he asks the guy like point out where she is, where David is on the map, and the guy points out, and he just fucking then just shoots him in the knee, or like I think he stabs him and then he shoots him or something. It's like like that's just like the real Joel like coming back, and like he doesn't give a fuck. He just wants to save the people he cares about.
Yeah, because when you look at Joel at the beginning of the game, he just sees Ellie as someone he really wants to get rid of. For example, he wants to.
She's a bird, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes over to him at first. So he wants Tommy to take her to the Fireflies, but then you get that whole scene in the house, which will go on a bit later in the podcast. But when you compare Joel from the beginning of the game to the end, and how much the bond has grown between Ellie and Joel, it's one of the best I've seen in not only games but in just storytelling in general.
Yeah, it's
one of the best things.
And acting from Ashley Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus, it honestly gives you goosebumps. Like even just thinking about it right now, I got a shiver literally down my spine.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've seen like the game's been out for 7 years. In about a week it's gonna be 7 years. I have watched so many videos like behind the scenes of how they're acting, how they're doing all that stuff. Different podcasts they've been on, different I don't know where it's E3, PSX, and they're just discussing the game. And you can just see like the passion they have in it as well. Like they truly like became the characters. Like they love the characters, and the way they act, like it's literally I don't even know what to say. It's amazing, honestly.
Gone full fangirl mode.
I have never seen acting that good in any game.
I have never seen acting.
Like Roger Clark, obviously, fucking amazing as Arthur Morgan. Like. That character, like obviously Arthur Morgan also is like one of the best ever characters written and stuff. But goddamn, like it is just a different level. And then obviously Caitie, you've played. I texted you earlier because I didn't actually know when you first played a game. You said you started last year and then you finished this game this year. So what are your thoughts, in summary?
I mean, it's definitely different than just watching a gameplay on it, because you've actually experienced what the characters are feeling and the environment around you. And honestly, when I finished that game, I was just staring at the credits like, wow.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Honestly, like I came into the voice call because you were all in a voice call after I finished replaying it a few days ago. And I was just like, I sat there for 20 minutes before I joined. I was like, Jesus, like I've played this twice. This was my third time playing, and I've watched I think one walkthrough of the full game, so 4 times essentially. And yeah, still just as shocked. Like it has been 6 years since I've played it for the last time, but like yeah, it is something else for sure. All right, so I suppose we'll start going through the game.
Yeah, do you want to go through it chronologically?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to start off with the comic first then?
I know nothing about the comic.
I will add the comic when we're talking about.
You can bring me up to date on that if you want.
When we're talking about Left Behind, during the scene with David and all that stuff, that we can discuss the comic then.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. Alright, so obviously we start in September 2013. We start with a scene of Sarah and Joel sitting on the couch watching TV. It's Joel's birthday. She gives him a watch. Obviously, he's joking about like, how'd you get the money? She's like, oh, drug dealing. Everything's nice. Just normal father-daughter relationship. Everything is fine. And then she falls asleep. And this is basically when the game actually starts. So we start as Sarah, we walk around the house, we wake up obviously in her room, she hears phones calling, everything, dogs barking, and that's the thing I noticed. I took my time walking around the house this time. There's obviously a lot of stuff around the house. You start in her room, you can look around her room.
This section really reminded me of Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Just like walking around, like interacting.
Yeah.
What this reminded me, this isn't exactly a spoiler, but in Uncharted 4, when you go back to the house as Nate, and you explore.
Don't say much more.
Yeah, you explore the attic essentially.
You mean?
When
you're exploring when you like, there's no running around shooting things, making things, crafting. It's all just purely interacting with the environment that's been set up. So that was what really reminded me.
The way it's setting itself up. I think you walk out of her room before you actually walk to Joel's room where you see the TV. You can walk through the different rooms. There's a newspaper I saw. I don't think I've seen this other times I've played, but it literally says 300% rise in admittance to the hospitals due to some virus they don't actually know about. And like that already gives you something like, oh, okay, something is off. Like if you're playing for the first time and you know nothing about it, you don't know about the infected. Like let's say you just blindly picked up this game, like that's the first thing that tells you like, okay, something has been wrong recently. Like 300% rise in admittance, like that's a lot of people going to hospitals.
Yeah, but like that, you're actually kind of surprising me, Kaz, because I thought you would be, like exploring the entire house, because that's what I did when I played it. I went through the room. You can check the phone, but the phone is still dead.
Oh yes. I forgot about
you
that.
can you see that Sarah wanted to give Joel a birthday card, but she forgot about it.
I was just gonna mention that as well. Yeah,
and then you move on to the bathroom, you see the newspaper and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like I'm just very curious and really paying attention to the possibilities of the game in terms of like you have different items, different locations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or like all the different things, like what can you pick up, what can you actually read?
Exactly.
That's what Naughty Dog does.
I think in the next game, in The Last of Us Part 2, they're really going to push that. Like you're going to be able to. They'll probably start off. I actually don't know where they could start off, but they'll let us interact with literally like everything. I think in the environment that we've been set up for. I think they're really going to push that in the next one.
Yeah, no, I agree. So then we walk downstairs, and obviously it's still really quiet. There's one thing I noticed: there are dogs, barking in the distance the whole time, and you're like, okay, dogs bark at night, but not all the time. So obviously something is around the house.
It signifies trouble, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, like they do that in horror films a lot as well.
Exactly.
Like if it starts barking, it means something's.
I think they're mostly barking because of the explosion. At the,
So the explosion happens as well, as you already said, and so there's an explosion in the background, which is that scene itself. Like you're watching the TV and it explodes at the same time. Like that is just amazing. And then the TV cuts off, and obviously Sarah. I was gonna call her Ellie for a second. Sarah is just like, oh fuck, like what the fuck is happening? Obviously she can't find Joel, so she's walking around the house. She goes downstairs, and while you're nearing the kitchen / the dining room area, like when Joel comes in after in a few minutes, you can look out the window and you can see that there's a swing made from like an old tire, and it's swinging really like
violently.
Violently, like not in a way that it would swing by itself. So obviously something has like ran past it or moved it or something. So
because you could so you can hear the dogs barking and stuff like that, and then. I'll get back on this, but then you get the phone call from Tommy. You get the messages on Joel's phone, and then you see that Tommy's on his way. You see the little letter on the fridge, and then she asks where Joel is.
Yeah.
But then as you move to like Joel's office section with like his. You can hear the dog dying outside.
I was just about to say.
That's what.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
goes from
said,
barking to whimpering to just silence.
Yeah. No, like you just hear him suffer, and then you don't hear him anymore.
Yeah.
And then you think like, oh, someone killed the
dog's
dog or
died.
something.
Something has killed the dog. Yeah.
Because you saw it with the tire, and you hear the dogs barking, and there's just silence. And then, like the intensity of the game gets even more, gets even bigger, just by such a subtle thing. And then you move on to the office, and you can go on with that.
So you walk into the office obviously, and then you can hear noises outside. And for some reason, this time I was playing, I was like, I usually walk away from the door. You're trying to be as far from the door as possible. I was like, what will happen if I walk towards the door? And I was literally just standing at the door, and like there was no difference. Like seeing tickets, because Joel runs into the house, and Sarah's like, what's happening? Like he's really nervous. He's like, Sarah, like move away from the door, all that kind of stuff. That's when I was like, I moved towards the door, and you can literally see from the distance the neighbor. I forgot his name. Was it Jimmy? Jimmy, yeah. You can see him running and like through the garden and then into the house. And
that's what the same thing I did in my second playthrough, which I'm still doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm just really because I've been going through the game again just because I find it so good, and also I have some future projects coming along, so I just decided to replay it.
Honestly, I would actually want to replay it again. I just played it.
It's so
shit
good,
myself. I almost hate playing it as much as I love playing it. Because I'm like, anyone who's seen me in any sort of tense or horror situation knows I go full defense mode. Like, yeah, exactly. I'll get fucking angry. So in that fucking scene, that bit, there's a bit of the game obviously where a bloater comes along when you do the generator. I was fucking yelling. I'm like, I'm glad I've played this. I loved it, but fuck ever playing it again.
Yeah.
So that was my thoughts. Yeah.
You're gonna be even more fucked during the second game.
Maybe the sixth stage.
So yeah, when they announced this was the state of play not too long ago. They did the new stage were infected, the Shamblers.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, there's a new 6th level of infected, and they show us the noise, and that noise keeps me up at night. I don't ever want to hear that fucking noise again.
Do you want to know something? So if someone doesn't want to know anything about Last of Us Part 2, skip the next 20 seconds or so. So there's a new enemy type called a Stalker. And
no. Thing is, it's not a new enemy type. He did show up in The Last of Us 1, but
3 times, right?
Yeah, not that much, so it's easily forgettable. But it is an old.
The Stalker's in between Runner and Clicker, I think. It's like
no, but I mean the ones on the 4, they're like on 4 legs basically. Like this is a new enemy type. So this is a new enemy type.
When was this announced?
They said it in previews and stuff. They crawl around and they try to be as quiet as quiet.
Oh, stalkers.
They try to be as quiet as you are. So they can literally be like around the corner and they'd be looking out the corner, and if they see you, they're gonna hide, and you can't hear them. Like they will. If you're if you're playing, like you'll go around the corner, you'll crouch, you're gonna be try to be as quiet as you can. They will do the exact same thing. They will hide and be quiet.
You see, I'm loud. That won't be the worst problem, because I'm like the loudest for like.
Yeah.
When it comes to The Last of Us, I don't do this stealth thing everyone speaks of. I'm very much flamethrower, nail bombs, Molotovs, all of that.
That's the fact that like they're fucking. All these mobs, monsters, whatever, infected we already had were scary enough. These ones literally fucking crawl around the place, like hiding from you. It's fucking mad. Okay, so then, so Joel comes over. We run outside with Joel. Tommy arrives. We get in the car. We begin to drive away. Obviously, Sarah just woke up. Everything's fucking going to shit. She doesn't know what's going on. Tommy's panicking. Joel's panicking. Everyone would panic, obviously, in a situation like this. I like this part, like when you're Sarah, you can actually move around the car, you know? You can look
around, you can observe the environment and see what's happening.
Yeah, and so obviously, like, you're driving away from the house, you drive past, like, a farmer's, barn kind of house thing, and like Joel knows who like the farmer was, like they're friends with these neighbors. And he's like, oh, I hope he got away, because the whole house is just in fire. Like it is.
Yeah.
Everything, like from being so peaceful within like half an hour, well, not even within 15 minutes of playing, it just everything goes to shit. And then you keep driving and you find a family on the way, and I think was it Tommy? I know Sarah says it for sure. I don't know if Tommy does. Like, oh, like help them and get them in the car or whatever. And Joel's
Sarah says we have room.
Yeah,
like,
And Joel's like,
and
no, fuck
Tommy
it.
wants to do it, but then Joel says drive.
Yeah, Joel's like,
you don't know what
drive.
I've seen.
Exactly.
Drive.
Yeah.
They'll find someone else.
Yeah, which probably they don't, unfortunately. And then we drive into the town, into the city, wherever it is. I know it's in Texas. I don't know if they actually mentioned the name of the town. I assume it's probably one of the largest ones, if there is like a motorway and stuff. I assume it's either Dallas or whatever else.
I think it's Dallas.
It could be. I don't know what else. I don't really know about stuff about Texas.
It doesn't really matter.
Exactly. And so they're driving through the thing. They're trying to get to a different road, like a different highway. But then when they reach there, they see everyone has done the same thing. Like everyone the same idea. So they're like, all right, well, we have to go take a different turn. So they drive into the actual town.
Well, doesn't one of the infected come along when they're trying to queue up? One of the infected. The cars and shit.
Yeah, the passengers in the car in front of them
get
attacked by the infected.
Yeah, so that's
and the affected go towards our car, and I, as Sarah was against the window, and you just see the infected slamming on the window, and Sarah backs up because she.
Oh damn! No, I was on the other side. I moved away before he even got close to the thing. And then so we then drive away from that, drive into town, and while we're driving, obviously people are running. There's fire everywhere, explosions. Everyone is going crazy, and basically just chaos. And then we crash. And I think it goes to black screen for a second, and then it goes back. And we're playing as Joel. And this transition overall was great, from playing as Sarah to Joel, because obviously Sarah, most likely she has a broken ankle or leg. She can't move at this point. Joel takes her out, obviously. Tommy's there, like, helping them. He has a gun on him. He's defending them. They're like... Then you have Sarah in your arms, and you start running through the town. And every corner you turn, there's infected. Everyone's screaming. Still, explosions. Like, you try to go down an alleyway, you can't. It's full. It's either full of infected, or you can't run through it, and like you... there's literally nowhere to go. Everyone's running in the same directions, but then they run the same direction, and then they realize they can't run that direction, so they run somewhere else. And
doesn't the petrol station fucking explode?
I believe a cinema is on fire, and you see people walking out of there still they're on fire.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, so then you said, we see the cinema, people running out, they're still burning. The explosion happens in front of you, and then there's an alleyway to the left you can go to, and then you run through that with Tommy. So you playing as Joel, holding Sarah and Tommy, and you're running through that. There's some infected behind you. There's some infected trying to get through the fence, and you run into like a pub kind of area place, bar. And it really reminded me actually of when in Uncharted 3 when you're in the pub.
Oh yeah.
It somehow reminded me of that scene. I don't know why. I was like, I just feel similar, as in just the interior. I don't know. And so then Tommy is like, "Oh, you run ahead. I'll take care of them. I'll catch up to you." And then that's when the scene happens.
Honestly, when Tommy went go on without me, I expected somebody to die and that we wouldn't see him again. But now, of course, as Joel runs towards the bridge, there are still infected going behind you.
Oh yeah, that is so tense.
You can hear them in the background.
That was really because you can almost feel them breathing down your neck. That was so fucking
while
scary.
You're running, there is one or two.
Fuck off.
Yeah, there's one or two behind you the whole time. But you also see one on your left on the ground, eating a body. But then he rises as well as you stand up. And I was just there running. I knew okay, I have to get to a certain point, and there's gonna make a cutscene. I knew it. but I was still running as quickly as possible. Like
I was just like, fuck off. Literally in my head, I was like, get the fuck out of here, you cunts.
Yeah,
like, I was so
I
scared.
I honestly expected to get tackled by one of them.
Yeah.
And then, I had to fend off. But then you see a soldier and he shoots them down and you're like, oh, we're finally safe, let's go. But then, the soldier asks you to stop. You're like, we've been through hell. And then the soldier gets the orders to kill him.
Well, you hear him say like, "Oh, but she's just a girl" or something. Like, something along those
but there's
lines.
a girl.
Yeah, and that's when Joel realizes. He's like,
and you can see the soldier sort of regretting it. And then he aims his gun, and you're like, "Oh fuck!" And then he starts shooting. Then you like go down the hill behind you or something like that.
Yeah. And then he's about to kill Joel, but then he gets shot by Tommy, and you're like, "Oh, thank God, Tommy's alive." But then you hear Tommy say, "Oh no," and you hear Sarah in the background.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh no."
That bit was hard to watch. Like that entire
It
section of that was so fucking hard to watch.
It was my fourth time. Probably I've seen that scene itself. Probably God knows how many times. But it's still just as heartbreaking. But for some reason, because of the meme that we have recently, you already know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna say. It's from Harry Potter.
My boy.
We've been rewatching Harry Potter a few weeks ago, and then we were watching Goblet of Fire. Spoiler for Goblet of Fire if you somehow haven't watched it. But the scene where Cedric Diggory dies and his father comes in screaming, "That's my boy, that's my son." I pointed it out and I made it a meme, and now we can't really be sad about the scene anymore.
Now the scene is ruined for everyone.
It slightly ruined the Sarah scene. Mainly, I have seen it enough times, so obviously it's not gonna hit as much as it did probably the first time or whatever. Still brought me to tears, but like all I could think of was, my boy, that's my son.
That's my girl.
That's my girl. So obviously
very emotional.
Emotional scene, but I'm laughing.
We've already ruined one scene in The Last of Us. How many more can we do?
No, that's it. And then of course, so there's the 20-year time jump. So we are now in 2033. Actually, that would make Ellie be born around now.
Ellie was born around
2019.
2020, depends
she was born in 2018, 2019. We don't know the exact date.
Yeah, so we know the date because it
is around that
she
time.
is 14 in 2033, so. That's fine. So we wake up in a house, destroyed. Obviously, looks like it's abandoned. It has been 20 years, and we're Joel, and I don't exactly remember exactly how it starts because it's been a while. I didn't really take down notes.
Okay, so like
on the beginning,
I'm taking on the podcast right now.
Yeah, go on, do it because you have literally replayed it again a few days ago.
Yeah. I fucking yesterday I had that scene. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so like Joel wakes up. It's summer 2032, I think. Or 33
because it's 20 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Joel wakes up and Tess walks in, and then Tess offers him a drink. He doesn't want one, and then he sees that Tess is wounded because she got jumped by two of Robert's guys. Then you find out who Robert is, and Joel and Tess go out to deal with Robert because Tess knows where Robert is. So then you get that whole section. You see two people outside, and one of them is being.
Say that. Did you stand there? Or did you walk past them?
The first time I walked past them.
Did they mention your name?
I stood there, and then they interacted. With Joel as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, I never, because I think every time I played, I just walked past. But this time I was like, oh, I'll stand around. I'll see what's around the area. I was reading the different signs, like follow the light, like all the Firefly like propaganda stuff on the walls, and then the two people are talking to each other. So I wasn't really listening to them. I was kind of listening, but not really. And then they called Joel. I'm like, oh, like what the hell? I didn't realize that can happen. Like they know you're there and they just talk to you because if you stay there for long enough.
I think it's also a bit because the reason why you walk past them is because Tess has already opened the gate and she wants to go.
Yeah.
But if you just stand there, she'll wait for you. And that happens a couple of times in the game. For example, when you walk further past, you see them. You see the soldiers getting out those people from that building.
Yeah, I stood around as well.
Yeah, I the second time I just stood there and Tess still waits, and then one of them is of course infected. That person dies, and the rest is like, what the fuck? And then they move on, and then because Tess says the same thing, but then it even makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now it already makes sense, but it fits a lot more.
And even right before that, before you see the people that are like walking out of the house, there is that line of people queuing up for rations, and I think Joel either says like, "Oh, they're lining up early," or like earlier than usual, but also there is less people than usual lining up.
Something gives, I can't remember what it was, but at some point someone said something about how little rations there are in the quarantine zone.
That's the thing. There's less rations.
Yeah.
I think it is Tess. So there's less rations.
Very little
but
rations
there's also
in the
less
quarantine
people
zones.
with ration cards, which probably means like a whole thing. Like Robert and his people, they all have a lot of ration cards. Tess seems to have a lot of them because she's just basically giving them out left, right, and center when she was discussing people. So obviously there is some, like, you could say criminal activities happening with rations. People are like stealing them from people and stuff as just money basically to pay with. And then so we walk through the city. So we tried to walk through the gate into different area of the quarantine zone, and you know the soldiers ask you for your ID and all that stuff, and you're just saying, "Oh, go and visiting a friend because I have a day off." And as that's happening, there's an explosion once again. Explosions all the time, and people start shooting. The fireflies are attacking that part of the quarantine zone. So the soldiers are telling everyone to get back home and everything, and then so Tess is like, "All right, get into this building," and you run into a building. You start walking through it, and obviously straight away you can see people in there. They know you and Tess. Like the man starts walking with you, and she's saying that she has to go find Robert, and the guy's like, "You know where he is," like, you know, like all that kind of stuff, like, you know. And then he's like, "Oh, like, stay safe," and he just stops, and then you keep walking. You walk into another room, and there's a guy there clearly sitting there to mind the entrance, essentially. Which is like just a different exit for all these smugglers, because obviously Joel and Tess, after 20 years, like they're smugglers. They get stuff in and out of the city for people, bring them probably to different cities, different parts of the city. It's their way to make to money, just to keep going. And so you go through there, you open a way in the wall, you jump down, you start walking through the thing, and you walk out into an open area, which is the first time you see, essentially, except of the intro, but like in the 20 years later part of the game, you see foliage for the first time, and everything is like just so overgrown. It's mad.
Yeah, you see outside the quarantine zones, and you see how much like vegetation has grown on all the different buildings and stuff, and how like literally it's just been abandoned.
Yeah.
It puts everything. Yeah,
Mm.
puts everything into perspective, as well as like as to how everyone is just forced inside these quarantine zones, and like the world is just basically fucked.
Yeah. And so this is the first time then that, you know, everyone's favorite ladder scene or ladder part of the game, when you have to keep getting the ladders for the people, carrying them around, you know, climb up the thing. And as you're walking through that, there's still, you can find obviously the firefly pendants, or you can start picking up some crafting things like the alcohol and just all like cloth, all, you know, knives, like, or whatever. But there are some notes, and there's like, you know, a few dead bodies laying down here and there. You can see obviously like, okay, so this is outside the place where people just live. And even though it is in a time where like there is obviously an apocalypse or whatever, or after an apocalypse, people still somehow live kind of normally. But obviously you walk out of a building through a side entrance, and it's a completely different world. You know, you walk through a building, I think, don't you go through a spores area, I believe.
Yeah, so you go into like a underground section of the building, and then you notice that there are spores, and then it's the first interaction for spores, and you immediately, they put on their gas masks, and you know, like, oh, if you breathe this in, you become infected. But that's very clear.
Yeah.
So you move on, and then you see someone grabbing your leg as you went under something to the next area. And then
he was a smuggler, I believe, as well.
So instead of like wanting to become one of them, he asked Joel to kill him. I obviously killed him instantly.
Yeah, I did too.
I killed him straight away.
You have the option.
Like, and then, you know, they say like, oh, poor bastard, and they move on, and then they then we get introduced to the hearing ability. That's like you hear the
thing, yeah.
infected. Yeah, so you hear infected. You're like, oh shit, and then you hear it's basically eagle vision, but also not.
I kept calling it eagle vision throughout the game when I was playing it.
It's just every ability. It's in every single game.
Yeah, it's in every single game.
Feature sense or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
detective vision.
Oh, of course.
And then you can you sneak kill one of them first, so you get in, and then you kill the rest as well. You move through the building, and then you also see a note. And this is one part of the game, like we talked about this in the beginning, that there are items that you can just read, and that's something I really want to see again in The Last of Us 2. Throughout the game, there are these notes that build up their own story and see what people go through. For example, there's a letter where a brother is sorry about what he did, and he hopes that the smuggler can still deliver the letter, but obviously that didn't happen. And you're like, oh, it's fucked up. But like those little stories are all like I've read all of those.
Yeah,
that's something I really want in the Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, that's
one the little stories that are built through the different notes, because there's quite a few just scattered throughout the game, and you piece together because you can see the different environments that have been built, and notes relate to different objects. Like let's say there's a broken whatever on the floor, and somewhat you read a note and it explains why this is broken, and it really just like adds to the entire world.
Yeah, or even like you go through a certain area or whatever it may be, like a broken ladder or a ladder is missing, or later on, like you have to later on in the game there's these you have to go turn on generators to open gates, and you find notes of people that are saying like we closed the gate, or we moved this object, we moved this ladder because of they're infected or whatever. It's like you read the notes, and like after you see those things you're like, oh yeah, like I remember seeing that, or like you said, some objects on the ground or whatever it may be. Like the storytelling through those notes and letters and photographs you see of families or whatever it may be. Like
there's which we'll also get later on too, but there's one section of the game which has a lot of letters and builds it's kind of a big story within the game.
I know.
Ben knows which one I'm talking about.
There's two, so I don't know which one you're on about. Are you about Frank?
We'll get on to that later. No, not Frank. No, not Frank. Frank is like a very little story. I'm talking about a big story with a lot of letters, but that's
okay. We'll get onto it.
we'll get on to that
we
later.
do need to speed up because we still haven't met Ellie, and we're here for half an hour.
Yeah, but like that entire story section was really really cool to read. So they move on to find Robert. They come across some guys, and they Tess immediately kills the main guy out of the three of them, and they kill the rest. You move on, and then you find Robert.
This is the first time we actually start shooting as well.
Yeah,
and stuff. And so we get introduced to shooting and cover the cover mechanics of the game, and
so you get right into the action of the game.
Exactly.
And then of course you take in my first playthrough I took everyone out, just killed every one of them. In my second playthrough
when you're going through the warehouse,
it's like at the harbor bit.
No. I think I've killed like one guy this time playing.
So I did very sneaky, but then at the end I got caught. But then I immediately went to the door, and it's like it completely skips. But then they find Roberts, and Roberts is shooting at them, and then you chase him through the buildings, through the alleyway, and then of course he tries to escape. Tess just knocks him down with the fucking pipe.
Does he remind you of anyone, by the way? Does he remind you of anyone?
From Game of Thrones. It's
Bronn. He's made to look like Bronn from Game of Thrones. People thought it's the actor that played Bronn, but it's not. It's a different guy.
Yeah, like I thought, like it must have been him, but like the voice sounded very weird.
Yeah,
so I was like, no,
he's just meant to be made to look like him.
And then of course, we find out that Robert has sold the guns to the Fireflies,
which is such a cunt move, honestly.
Yeah, but like it's selling Robert.
I know, yeah, but I was thinking, I was like, fuck you, like selling weapons that aren't yours, like I know it is Robert, and he obviously deserves.
I mean, he did try to kill Tess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But fuck him.
Yeah, I think that was the bit that made me think that Robert was a cunt. Not that he sold weapons. When he tries to kill the person like throughout the game, yeah, this is where I draw the line.
Fuck Tess. Like the weapons are more important.
Yeah, but then they
kill him.
Yeah, they kill him easily. Like Tess even says, "Oh, if you didn't send these guys after me, I might have considered." And then she kills him.
No,
and then they're like, "Oh, we need to find." Yeah, then we need to find the Firefly, and then they find the Queen.
Literally, as they say it, Marlene just pops out the corner like, "Hello, I'm here."
Yeah, because we already got a little bit of information about Marlene from a wanted poster and what the guy said to Tess at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a little bit of information about Marlene, and that she shot. Don't know how. It's because
she got shot by Robert or one of his guys, I think.
No. Because so that she asked Joel and Tess to smuggle something out of the city, and then we meet up with Ellie. Like originally, she wanted Robert to smuggle Ellie out of the city, and Joel and Tess weren't the first choice, not by a long shot.
Yeah,
it's really a desperate call.
She says that for sure. Like you were not the first option. Like they obviously know Marlene for ages, like for years now. Like they haven't worked with the Fireflies, but they've worked with Marlene essentially. I mean, they work with anyone essentially. Joel and Tess, they're smugglers. They just wherever there's essentially money, quote unquote money, they'll do it. So so they have probably obviously they know who she is, and because also because of the relation with Tommy, she because she's the reason why Tommy became a Firefly. Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. We meet Ellie for the first time immediately.
Well, finally we got there.
After my stopwatch, it says 43 minutes.
Oh man,
it will be fine. I'm trying to pick up some.
Yeah, me too.
Pace. So we meet Ellie, immediately violent and stuff like that. And she doesn't want to go with Joel. She wants to stay with Marlene. Doesn't happen.
You can already tell she's very different from Sarah as well. 'Cause she's like swearing, saying shit like that. So
yeah.
Sort
of go, I fucking miss Sarah actually. Like this girl's a fucking cunt. But yeah.
But then Tess goes with Marlene to check on the guns, and then in the meantime Joel goes with Ellie to a sort of safe place.
And I love this scene because he is just like, I don't give a fuck about you. You do whatever you want. He just lays down on the couch. She's like, what are you doing? And he's just like, killing time. And obviously he puts.
It's also raining in that scene.
Yeah, when he wakes up. That's also a beautiful shot when you see Ellie at the window.
And he puts
he
puts his watch on his forehead. And she's like, oh, your watch is broken. And he's like, I know.
Oh.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, and then you see that beautiful shot, and that's Ellie's first time being so close to the outside. And then obviously Tess comes in, they get out, they go on their way to get out of the city. But first they get was it before or after the the scene where we find out that Ellie's infected?
No, so they walk out and we're just walking through like a small little area, and then we get into the area with the sewers essentially. Like so we walk out through the wall and Ellie's like, so this is what the outside is like, that kind of thing. Like they're outside the QZ, the quarantine zone, and then so she's obviously her first time stepping outside the area, and obviously we see stuff like now everything is like we thought already stuff were overtaken by vegetation. This is even like more like it's mad, and so we start walking, and obviously there's been some like shooting earlier and stuff. So they know that the Fireflies are, like, the soldiers know the Fireflies are in the area. People are, like, coming in and out of the area, the quarantine zone. So as we're walking away, Tess, Joel, and Ellie, we, in the distance you can hear, like, soldiers, you can see stuff. But then after that whole sewer area, you can see the lights, like, the torches from the guns, like, shining in and stuff. So this becomes even more intense than it already is, just being outside of the thing. Now there's soldiers there, and we're sneaking past them, trying to get out to the area. And as we think we're done, we think we're about to just be out of the whole thing, and they get caught. Like, of course.
No.
Yeah.
That happens before. They get out of the
No, I'm talking
smuggler
about
group.
away from the sewers. I meant, not the whole thing.
No, but like they get out of the smuggler thing, right? And then they go through a sort of the back of the bus.
Yeah.
And then they're immediately caught. But like the whole flashlights thing
Is that later?
comes on later.
I thought it was right before it. I mean, you've played
Huh?
it. Just I thought
Yeah,
it was...
no, it happens after. Because,
Okay, yeah. You literally played it
so,
yesterday, so you remember.
so they find out that
Yeah, so they began
Ellie is
scanning
infected.
him. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, why are we smuggling an infected girl? And then we find out that she's not just infected, she's immune. Her wound is 3 weeks old. And then more soldiers arrive because they, heard gunshots. And,
yes.
and then we escape through the sewer bits. That's where the flashlights.
I always
come
get
in,
it confused. I always thought it was right before it, but yeah.
No,
the whole area
it's
is like really
right
similar
after
because it is nighttime. It's raining. You know,
Mhm.
there's sewers all the time. You're sneaking. Like it's all pretty similar.
Okay, so you go through the sewers, evading the soldiers, and then you get to like this neighborhood. You go through there, sneaking past them. You could kill them, but sneaking by is way easier. And you move through these buildings, and like you see that like it's been fucked because the army bombarded everything outside of the quarantine zone to kill as many affected as possible. And then they go through the building. We get introduced to clickers, to the stalkers, because this is the first time we
Actually, feel infected properly.
yeah, like we see what happens to people when they're infected for a long period of time.
And fuck
So we
that.
get introduced to the clickers and stuff. We move on, and then eventually we get to the other side. And then we went through the
part
museum.
Oh yeah.
So you go through the museum. That's where Tess gets bitten,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, she does. She doesn't say
and
it,
then-
but you can see it. It's when you're like running through the hallway and you can see she's like
Yeah.
being attacked, and Ellie starts
Mhm.
stabbing the guy, but like you already sense it. Like
And then they move on. Joel asks if Ellie is okay, and then that's a fun piece of dialogue that I
Yeah.
really liked about. Are you breathing? Yeah. Okay, that counts. So
yeah.
that's and then they get out. They survive all of it. They get a beautiful shot. Ellie is really fond of the view, and then as soon as she said that, Joel looks at his watch and thinks of Sarah,
Mhm.
and then Tess says, "Oh, we need to move on."
Yeah.
So they go to the Capitol building, and they find out that all of the Fireflies are dead. They've arrived there for basically nothing, and then we find out that Tess has been bitten. She's infected. Yeah, so it's really hard for Joel to let Tess go, but eventually he does.
Yeah.
Tess
Of course,
dies.
they have some type of relationship for sure. Like
Yeah, they're a really good relationship. I don't think it was a romantic relationship though. It was more.
I think it started off. They seem like it started off as like a working relationship.
Yeah.
Had a relationship where they cared about each other.
yeah.
I don't think it went anything past that. I don't think they.
Yeah, I think they just had a really good bond, like a sister sort of thing. Even though they
find
fight
each other and trust each other.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously goes a long way, especially in quarantine zones when everyone's trying to fight for themselves. If you can trust someone, that's obviously quite a big thing.
Yeah.
We Tess dies. We hear it. We can even see it. We can see it happening.
You can see it if you're running.
And then we escape from the soldiers. We go into the tube station.
Mhm.
And then Ellie doesn't need a mask because she's immune. And
That's when Joel
when
realizes,
Joel realizes,
yeah.
oh, it's real. It has to be real. They go through it, and then Joel says, oh, we need to go to Bill because he owes me some favors, and we could get a car.
An
and then
hour
can go to
later,
Bill.
we get onto Bill.
Okay, so we go to Bill. We see that there are traps, evading them, and then we get into one of Bill's traps, and then of course Ellie cuts us down, and then we are attacked by a runner, and then and then he died. The runner dies because Bill
Kill Bill.
Kill Bill,
Kills
the
with a
runner.
fucking machete.
And then you can immediately see like, oh, he's like the classic post apocalypse man. And we go with him, go into the
Classic
bar.
man.
Yeah, classic man. And then immediately, fucking what's it called? He handcuffs
Ellie.
Ellie. And then checks if Joel is bitten. And then Ellie takes a pipe and just smacks him.
Because obviously she doesn't want him to see that she's bitten as well.
That was such a good Ellie moment.
Honestly, this
Yeah.
is when we begin like, oh, Ellie's just fucking like she's honestly a badass. Like honest, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
for her,
You know,
age,
they-
especially, like, she just doesn't give a fuck.
Mhm. And then they go to the church to get supplies for the car.
And
because
this
Phil's
church
car.
itself. So when you're downstairs in the basement, but, like I mean, Ellie and Bill are, but you can go upstairs and just walk around. Like it's so beautiful in there. I went into photo mode and I spent like a good 20 minutes just taking photos of the sun rays going in through the church like windows,
Mhm.
And then you obviously see Bill's like little, like he has a bedroom kind of area, and then he has his like place where he sits down and eats, and there's like a note I think you can read.
Yeah, I did all of that after the basement. So you get supplies. Ellie steals a comic and also a very inappropriate book.
Oh,
The Minecraft
but, like-
guidebook. The rest
No, but like the thing is, you can already you can see those magazines and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
Bill's gay. That's great. And then you go upstairs, you see the bedroom, and because he talks about a partner, but you don't know who the partner is.
Yeah, he keeps saying partner, and people will think like if you don't see those comics or if you don't pick up on it. I think the first time I played, I didn't pick up on it. I thought like partner as in just someone that's just working with you, but obviously he means like partner, like someone
Yeah.
he's with. And also,
No, I knew it was romantic, but I didn't know it was
Yes.
like
Mm.
a guy.
And also,
or
he asks
anything.
about like where's Tess,
So I realised at the end.
Mhm.
I
Like,
think,
Every
yeah,
book.
at
which
the
is
end.
good. He's like,
Yeah.
where's Tess? All the time. He's just like, oh, you two are like, like you're together the whole time. Like it's weird that she's not here. But obviously,
and
Joel
Joel
doesn't want to tell him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go to the school because that's where the army car is.
Mhm.
They get there with a lot of trouble from clickers and stuff, and then they find out that the battery is not there. So they go through the school, kill a lot of infected.
We see the bloater
then
for
they-
the first time as well.
Hmm?
We see the bloater
What?
for the first time in a
Yeah, the bloater.
yeah.
Bloater.
Big
bloater.
fat cunt.
Fucking hate the bloater.
They're
Was-
actually really easily killed by fire.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
Molotov
that's
thing-
what I
One
realized
Molotov
as
kills
well.
them, like, but people don't realize that. Like, I remember playing, even this time, I forgot about it, and I was trying to shoot the little kind of balls they had on their body, like the bombs they pick up. I was like, oh, dude, there's these like hit markers, like hit areas you have to hit, and then obviously shoot them in the head. I was like, wait, you just throw one Molotov and they die.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
slow down.
Later on in the game, I just killed one with 2 headshots from a shotgun.
Yeah.
But anyway, you kill all of them, and then you get to the house, and you see Bill's partner. You see that someone hanged himself, and you're like, oh, that's shit. And then Bill just goes, that's my partner. And we're like, oh, shit.
And on the way, actually, there are a few notes, I'm pretty sure, that are from Frank, I think. There is
No.
one, I think there's one somewhere.
Yeah,
in the
there
way.
is. I think.
Yeah, there's
No,
in
no,
the
but
house,
before
there's
you
one
know, but
ladder.
before you reach the house, I think there is the one somewhere. It doesn't say like oh Frank or anything, but like it's to do with this whole thing, about like some traps and like so that area because Bill's like I've never been this way, but Frank has obviously, so he knows like where Frank's place is, kind of. So they go towards that area.
So obviously, like during the process of getting the battery, Frank gets bitten and then hangs himself because he doesn't want to turn into an infected.
Yeah.
So then he writes that suicide note basically, and
He
we
just
find that we
calls Bill a cunt essentially.
yeah, that's basically what it is, and then we give that to Bill. Get a nice
No.
piece of dialogue.
Did you give it to Bill?
Yeah.
Did you give it, guys?
Yeah, I think.
I give what to Bill, sorry?
The note, the suicide note. Did you give it to Bill?
Yeah, I think
didn't.
so.
There, because
Yeah.
there's an option. You don't have to give it to him if you don't want to. I never gave it to him.
You're a cunt. No, but
To be
so
fair, most people actually haven't.
yeah, but I did because I actually played the game. But,
Be a bit of closure for you.
yeah, exactly. But then
Yeah.
we find out
It's
that
clearly troubled.
yeah. So we find out that Frank got the battery, also has a car, and then we start the car. Went through a lot of trouble again. We go off, and then Bill just tells Joel to get the fuck out of his town. And then, we get the nice car ride with Ellie to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, but actually, I have a few notes here quickly. So Ellie at some point actually asks you, saying, "Got a second?" She wants to ask you something, but Joel is like, "Oh, not now. Don't have time for this right now." So obviously, she's trying to talk to Joel, but Joel's like, "Nah, fuck this." And also at the beginning, when when you're going to town, you and Ellie do something. I think when she jumps over the gate or something, you let her jump over and she opens it. She's like, "Oh, good job," and she wants to high five you, and you actually do you high five her.
Oh yeah.
And there's actually also a boy's diary in a house you can go into where
I read the diary.
Yeah, he's writing about oh, my dad doesn't believe all this stuff that's happening, and then as the days pass, he's saying oh, dad's really quiet. Parents were fighting, but I can hear them, and then and then at the end, dad says we have to leave, and we have to leave, let the dog go back to wild where he belongs and stuff this. Like we said earlier, with all these notes and stuff you find throughout the game, the story, the world building of these little stories that a lot of people wouldn't see. They're even themselves are really strong. But anyways, then we drive away and we get to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we get also the funny scene with Ellie in the car where she falls asleep, and then we get to Pittsburgh and then we see these hunters, and Joel immediately knows, oh, it's a trick, so he rides the car into them. He fucking runs them over. And they crash because of the bus trap.
Yeah.
Which you can actually find a plan
later
for.
on. Yeah, later on you can find.
You can find a plan for the thing.
Yeah.
It says oh, do this here, do that here, and then boss goes this way. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
So we kill them all basically, and then we go further through, and then we find a garage full of dead bodies. Yeah. And he's like, oh, these people, they're not normal. We already knew that from the beginning. This is fucked. This changed the whole situation.
Yeah, and they want to kill you proper
Yeah. And then we go through all kinds of things. I don't really remember anything really outstanding.
To be fair, Pittsburgh itself is really long. There's different areas. There's the hotel where if you just walk around, Ellie will walk up to the counter and act pretending she's booking into the hotel, and then she also asks Joel if he stayed in one of these before, and he's like, oh no, it's way too fancy for me. And so there's a movie poster as well, and she's like, oh, what is that, or whatever, and he's like, oh, actually I want to see that, and she's like, oh, who dragged you to go see a teenage movie? And Joel
that's after the hotel section.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's in the hotel section. I'm just talking Pittsburgh itself, because Pittsburgh is so long and in depth. There's too much to go into, so I'm just giving some quick points. And obviously that is just basically you went to see the movie with Sarah, and then you also catch Ellie try to whistle a few times, which is pretty cool. If you obviously after you play Left Behind or whatever, when you've played Left Behind, then you notice that. Is there anything you guys want to say about Pittsburgh? Because we don't need to go into detail. It's a
fucking bloater.
It's a fucking long
fucking generator bloater.
Yeah,
it's a long chapter. I think it's one.
When I really discovered my passions for nail bombs, really discovered how good nail bombs are.
Like Mario said to you,
by Bill, and you just fucking lay them down.
You can just
lay
run away.
them fucking down. Yeah, but that's fucking shit, right? What
actually, the reason I stopped playing for months.
You use the ramp, and just fucking sprint it up, put some nail bombs down, and the bloater just fucking goes.
Yeah,
really.
I remember you and I talking about this, and it was so funny because I just grabbed the key card,
Did you just
put on
run?
the generator, and just sprinted towards the door and got out.
Yeah, you just run. It's fuck this.
Yeah,
I'm not wasting my resources on this. I just want to get out.
Yeah, that's what I did. And then Joel gets almost killed, and then Ellie saves her, which is a good moment. But then she'll act like it was nothing, and she just wants to hear oh, it was him or me, and which in the end he does ultimately say, and that gives a lot of makes their bond also a bit stronger.
Yeah,
a little
you
bit.
can in Pittsburgh itself, because it is such a long chapter. You can see their bond getting better, stronger and stronger throughout things.
Yeah,
it's little things that happen, but it's a good chapter for because it is such a long chapter that there's a lot of obviously fighting, but there's a lot of walking and just, you know, little conversations. You begin finding the comics, you know, that Ellie's collecting, obviously. There's the whole, for the first time you hear the classic line, endurance
to the edge of the
yeah.
universe.
Endurance survive, yeah. I had to look at Katie's bio because she has it, or status.
Yeah.
And yeah, so obviously as we're getting through Pittsburgh, we meet Henry and Sam towards kind of the end.
Yeah.
Classic boys.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you guys think of Henry and Sam?
Oh, I want to
Oh,
fucking
love
kill
him.
him immediately. he fucking chokes me. And then, you know, fucking Ellie goes in with her fucking switchblade. And then
No, you can't
cuts
blame
him.
them.
And
Oh,
Sam
yeah,
is
you
there.
can't blame him.
Yeah,
Like, after a while, you can say, okay, well, they're like classic boys. Like, they're just trying to survive out in the wild.
yeah, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get by, like, you know, you'd shit yourself in that situation too. I wouldn't have even hesitated. I would have just bang, 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 shot whoever was in front of me.
And they were
like,
obviously
yeah.
part of like a bigger group. So the people that we get to see shot down by the soldiers earlier, not the soldiers, the
Mhm.
hunters.
Mm.
They were all part of the same group. Like,
Yeah.
go into the city to find some like, what are they called? Supplies. There we go.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so, you know, we meet up with them. We plan the escape from the city. We get through that the gate that they patrol at night. They don't really patrol it that much, so that was the perfect opportunity. We kill all of them again,
Yeah.
because that's what all you do in this game.
Just kill
but
everyone on your way.
Yeah, and then, you know, you help Sam and Henry get out, and then Ellie as well. But then the ladder breaks off, and Henry leaves you alone to basically die.
I mean, to be fair, and this thing is like, you know, he doesn't really know you, and obviously, as he says later,
like, that's the thing. Yeah, Joel would do the same thing.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, Joel would do the same thing about Ellie. Like, Henry is there to, like, you know, he's minding his younger brother. Like, all he cares about is his younger brother. So if there's two other people that have to die for him to go with his brother, he's gonna do that. And anyone do that. Like, you know, Joel would do the same thing with Ellie. Like, so yes, then we get away. We get to the bridge, and we notice that the bridge is broken, so you can actually get through it. And Ellie's like, just jump, and Joel is like, you can't swim. And firstly, by the way, there's been so much time they spent already together, even later throughout the game. I think there would be enough time for Joel to teach Ellie how to swim at some point in the game. You know?
No, because, like, I mean, yeah, but the thing is, Joel doesn't want to bond with Ellie.
Yeah, but I mean,
He
later
does not
on when
want
they
to
have
He
bonded,
wants to get rid of her.
yeah, I'm saying even later on when they have bonded, like after Jackson,
Mhm.
you could
Yeah.
easily have, you know, taught her to swim. But whatever, you know, it's a game, and she can swim in the second game.
But
so.
yeah, they get, you know, they jump. Henry saves them. Joel almost shoots Henry, but it's fine. And then
And that
this
scene, can I just say,
little,
I love that scene from Henry. He's just looking Joel straight in the eyes, and obviously Sam he's gone or whatever as well out, and he's like, you know, like, oh, I'll shoot you or whatever. He's just, and Henry's just like, don't worry, he's not gonna do anything. He's just mad, which is understandable. Like, he's just not like losing eye contact with Joel at all. Like, that is such a good scene.
So anyway, like I was saying, now we get on to the you go to the bow, and this is where what I was
Yeah,
talking
so
about.
I
earlier
was
with
thinking you were
Noah.
gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, you find out about this guy called, and you go through the sewers, and you find more letters, more notes, and you see like that they have been living there and that whole story is first off so fucked up.
Yeah.
I like every letter I found, every drawing on the wall. I just looked at it and I was like, oh Jesus
Was
Christ.
that one about protecting the kids?
Yeah.
It's horrible.
That was
and you,
quite fucked up.
yeah, you go into that room and you see that Kyle, that's his name,
Yeah.
killed the kids to save them from a other fate, and like he even writes on the floor they didn't suffer.
Oh,
And then
the bodies, like, made me,
you can
made me
see
cry.
the
The
bodies.
bodies
They were
are there.
horrible.
Yeah.
So fucked up bit.
Yeah, so like that whole story made me want to see something like that even more in part 2.
If you go out after the sewer section, I don't think there's anything more important to discuss in the sewer section.
No.
But after you go
Yeah,
out,
one
you
of the
actually go
houses.
into one of their houses, and it actually adds more to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a house just outside the sewer.
Well, there is there is a note saying
Yeah.
like, oh, like, you know, we got
It's
out
from
and
someone
then-
else's perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and obviously
and
in the sewers, we forgot to say Joel and Ellie get separated, and like you can see, like, you know, Joel is worried for Ellie already. Like he's just like, you know, stick close to Henry, like, you know, all that stuff. Like he cares for her already. Like I don't know exactly how much time has passed. Obviously it's been probably at least a week for sure, if not longer. Like he's beginning to care for her, which is
Also adding to Ben of what he said about the letter, you can also find another letter of Ish where you can see that they survived.
Yeah.
And their fates remain unknown.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to them
Yeah.
after. We know they survived, but we don't know what happens.
it would be cool
after.
to see those people somehow in part 2.
Yeah.
It's
would
like,
be really cool.
we lived in this.
Even be
like,
someone we've killed already.
just like a short line, like, oh yeah, we lived in a super society for a bit or something, you know. It's like, oh shit, like, you know, we know those people, like, I have those people, but we've been there, like, you know.
Mm.
And then
That'll be
you know,
cool.
yeah, exactly. And then you move on, get the whole thing with the snipers, and that's when you take out the sniper, the infected come around, and they actually they bite Sam, but we don't know. And we get to the radio tower, and then you get that whole conversation with Sam. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you see, like, Ellie gives him a toy, and he throws it on the ground. At first, I was like, oh, you fucking cunt. Why would you? It's a gift. Why do you throw it on the ground? And then it reveals that he has been bitten. And you're like, oh my god.
That scene when Ellie walks in, and he's just there, like, fucking shaking.
Well, that was the use of what's it called? Dramatic irony, where you know something that the characters don't, and you know that as soon as Ellie walks into that room, she's going to see what's happened.
Ellie walks in, and then Sam is turned, and you're like, shit. And then, you know, Joel immediately wants to shoot him, but then Henry stops him, like, oh, that's my brother.
Henry points the gun at Joel.
Yeah. And then in the end, Henry has to shoot his own brother to save Ellie. And then he blames Joel for it, and he's like, what have I done?
He's like, put the gun down.
And literally,
Yeah,
immediately,
because
it's so
himself.
quick. He doesn't even think about it. Just fucking shoots himself. And that scene is,
Yeah.
oh my god, like, I can't imagine what, because I've seen it already, like, obviously a few times. Like, what the shock you must have had when you saw it. Like, it's so
I was
sudden,
like,
like,
shit.
what the fuck, you know.
I was so shocked. Because I was like, oh.
Well, I didn't think he'd do it. I thought.
No,
I
see,
knew Sam
I
was
thought
going
he
to die
would-
because they didn't do anything for it. Like, I had a feeling he was going to die because I was like, right, they've done fuck all with his character.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think they were going to kill off Henry. I thought I was like,
I thought like Henry will be in a deeper depression, but I wouldn't have thought he would have killed himself. And then
But
He
it's
did.
so sudden. It's so quick. Like, it's so out of nowhere. It's shock value, honestly. Like, even after all these times I've seen it, and I knew what's going to happen, it still gets you, like. And then we have, I think, finally gone halfway through the game.
Oh, there we go.
But things are speeding up. It's okay. We get to Tommy's area.
Yeah, we go to fall, and we go to the water.
I think this is the first time we see a time, or like a season change, don't we?
No. We see it at the beginning of the game. We see like summer 20.
No, but like, but it actually changing. I mean.
Yeah, that's the first time.
Yeah.
So we get to the waterworks thing. I don't really remember what it is.
Just
Basically,
the hydro.
Yeah, it's meant.
Hydro electricity plant. There you go.
Yeah, because it delivers electricity to Jackson, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And then you cross, but the thing is, if you go a bit exploring, you can see a grave with a teddy bear on it.
Oh my
and that
god.
grave is,
Oh.
and then Joel even says the grave is too small.
Yeah.
And then Ellie goes,
That's
"Oh,
one
I
of the
forgot
things
to
I
put a
that
toy
I was gonna say.
on Sam's grave." And you're like, "Oh shit."
yeah.
And then Joel, he kept saying to Ellie, "I don't want to talk."
Yeah, he said
about
like
the
Ellie
past.
wants to talk about it, and Joel is like, "What did I say?" And
Yeah,
like, you know,
because it
I
happened
don't-
with Tess and
we
now
don't
with
want to
Sam
talk
and
about it.
Henry.
And Ellie's like, "No, I want to talk about this." Like, you know, like Joel is like, you know, people died, whatever. Like, not that whatever, just that's it. They're gone. You know, there's no point talking about.
We
it.
move on.
We move on. But she's like, "No, I cared about these people. I want to talk about it." You know, like, obviously she is young still. Like she needs to, like I said, just even talk about it. She needs to express like how she feels. She needs some type of like clearance. You know, she's not exactly used to it. Like obviously she's seeing people die and stuff, but like, you know, she is not as used to it yet.
And then you know, in the end, she does say, "Oh, you're right. We shouldn't talk about it."
Yeah.
But mostly because of it's just Joel saying that.
Yeah.
But then we go to the entrance of the.
But actually, before we get to the entrance, at the beginning, you know, Joel talks about Tommy. He's like, yeah, he joined the Fireflies. He believes for their ideas. He hasn't seen her in a while, and she's like, oh, why, or whatever. He's like, well, the last time he saw me, he says he never wants to see my goddamn face again.
Yeah.
And then we get to the scene where, like, we're at the entrance of the plant, and Maria, like with her people, like she has the guns out, and like who are you, all that stuff. And then we hear Tommy. He's like, oh,
That's
like,
my goddamn brother.
and they just hug. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yes.
I mean, I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was quite worried because I didn't know how Tommy was going to react to seeing Joel.
Especially because of what Joel said.
Joel says they leave it on like
Bad terms, yeah, they had
unresolved issues. But when I was quite relieved to see that they were all right.
Yeah, it's like anyone, like if you have a brother or sister, whatever, like you'll fight, but then like fucking hours later, you're fine again. Like that,
each other's best mate.
Like that is the most brother thing. Like
We learned that also Ellie can ride on horseback.
Mm-hmm. Which I also like as a nod. It's a slight nod to Left Behind.
No, it's not. It's not a slight nod to the comic.
The comic as well, but also to like that whole Left Behind scene, which we'll get into. Like it's like when you know the scenes, like I know it's about the comic, but also like if you don't know about the comic, it's like a little thing to a Left Behind scene.
Yeah, but anyway, Tommy wants to. Joel wants to talk to Joel.
Joel wants to talk to Joel.
Joel wants to talk to Tommy, and then Maria goes with Ellie, and then Maria tells Ellie about Joel's past, what happened with Sarah, and that kind of stuff.
Tommy wants to give Joel Tommy went back to Texas about a year before this, and wants to give him a photo of him and Sarah, and Joel's like, "No, I don't want it."
Yeah, and then Ellie takes the picture, as well. But then they start the power plant thing, and then Tommy and Joel get in a little bit of a fight because Joel wants Ellie to go with Tommy to the Fireflies.
And Tommy's like, I don't know your shit, like basically.
Yeah, at first Tommy doesn't want to, but then they get attacked, and they as soon as the Joel and Ellie are reunited, you can see that Ellie is like, oh, I shot these guys.
The way she's talking, I love that scene. That acting from Ashley Johnson.
Yeah, and like Joel immediately goes like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And you see that he truly cares about her.
You see Tommy and Maria looking, and it's like Tommy realizes he's like, oh, like he's bonded with her. He knows if Joel stays longer with her, he's gonna treat her like his daughter. It's gonna get even more. Like it's gonna be similar
he wants his brother to lose when that close again.
Yeah.
Basically. But then, Ellie finds out that because she has suspicions that there was the plan all along. She runs off. We go after her, and then we get that incredible scene.
It's honestly this is like even a few weeks ago on Discord.
In the lodge.
Zach and I were talking about this. Like people talk about this scene just from time to time, even if you have. Like we've talked about it in the Discord so many times in community chat. Like, you obviously haven't just noticed because you haven't played the game. But like that scene, like there's a few scenes that like when people talk about The Last of Us, they talk about the ending, they talk about the beginning, they talk about the car ride scene with Ellie, with the comics and the magazine. Just like, oh, the pages are sticky, like she throws away. And then he's like, oh, get in here in the front, and like you're tired. She's like, I'm not tired, and then obviously she like falls asleep. Like next scene, like she's sleeping, like so that scene, and then obviously this whole scene in the bedroom. Where Ellie is just like reading the diary. She's like, is this all they cared about? Like what clothes to wear, boys, and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you get the incredible scene that Ellie tells Joel that she doesn't want to go with Tommy because she would only be more scared.
Yeah,
and she has lost everyone who ever cared about her. Everyone except for Joel.
Joel, yeah, that's when she says everyone except for fucking you.
Yeah, and that's such a good thing.
And like a powerful line, yeah.
And then Joel immediately says, "You're right. You're not my." Because Ellie says, "I'm not like Sarah," and then Joel gets like, "Oh yeah, don't talk about it." And then later on he says, "Yeah, you're right. You're not my daughter, and I'm sure as hell ain't your dad." Yeah. And then they get attacked by raiders.
Sting.
Yeah, like that whole that whole scene is one of the best things of the game.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
such a
found it cool here,
character-focused
so it's-
area. And I think
everyone
that's
I
something
have-
that
That's right.
really
you
can. That was like some of my favorite parts of the game. Probably my favorite parts of the game are the areas where they really focus on the relationship
Mm,
dynamics between Joel and Ellie, and
Mhm.
I think that was one of the moments that really stuck out for me as like a pivotal moment in their relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found
And
the
then-
quote here. It's like, everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone, fucking except for you. So so don't tell me I would be safer with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared. And then he's like, they say something. He's like, you're right. You're not my daughter, and I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways. It's like, fuck me. That thing is just. It is so powerful. Honestly, it's such a good scene.
Yeah, exactly. And then Kill the Raiders go back to the they go on their way to Jackson.
Back to Jackson,
County.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, just Jackson, the settlement they
settlement.
have up. And then
I love this.
along that ride, Joel realizes that he doesn't want to go away from Ellie. He wants to go with her. And then he says, "Where's the lab? Tell me where the lab is." No, but he says, "Where's the lab?"
Yeah.
And then he goes with Ellie instead of Ellie going with Tommy.
Yeah, she's like, Ellie, give Tommy back the horse, and get on here with me. And Tommy is just like, like he knows. He's like, just like he already knew. He's like, no, yeah, Joel is not letting this go. He's going the full way with her. He has bonded. There's no way he's separating from her.
Yeah, and then he does say, "Oh, there's place for you here," which in the end they go back to.
They do,
Jack-
yeah.
And they
Spoilers.
live their lives there.
And so then we leave, and then we get to the uni.
Yes.
Oh.
That's it. Yes, the
We
uni.
do.
And you're like, almost end of the game. We're
Oh,
almost done.
nearly. So I love this part. They're walking through the uni, and obviously you're on the horse. You can get up the horse. You can explore the area.
This is where you get the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
In my first playthrough, I got the flamethrower at the hospital. I was like, where the
Really?
Yeah, because
I got it in
I-
this
Oh,
bit here.
yeah, you get it in the place where the generator is.
Yeah, but I didn't pick it up because I didn't notice it. I wasn't aware it was there.
Oh my god.
Because,
yeah.
How did you miss it?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
because,
really
like,
obviously put down. I don't know.
no,
How
I just immediately
I
went
didn't know
upstairs.
you can't not find it. Oh, that's great, because when you walk into the room, I threw a brick, and I was like, fuck this, I don't know how to pull the flamethrower out, just burned every single fucking infected in that room.
Yeah, that's what I did in my
it
second
was
playthrough.
amazing. Like,
Yeah, but I missed that, and then you get these gas thingies along the way when you're going through the university. I'm like, why do I have these? Did I miss something? Nah, probably not. And then in the end, it's like, I did miss it.
yeah, and at the beginning there's a scene, where they're actually, even the way it begins, Ellie's like talking about how American football works. She's reciting.
he explains the rules to her, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he explains. She's
Yeah.
like reciting them, and he's like, "Yeah, that's how it works." And like they're talking about just regular stuff. Like, it is great.
Yeah, you also have
He was related to the university.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
The whole
Yeah,
singer
yeah.
scene, I was gonna say, when she's like, "So what would people do here?" Like, she was like, "So they would just study here and live here like adults," and he's like, "Yeah, and they would party and all that stuff and figure out what they want to do with their future." And she's and there's the scene later when they're walking out. She's like, if I were to live here, I think I would like in a normal world, like I think I want to be an astronaut, like just in a completely like by yourself and essentially like in a different world basically. And then she asked Joel what he wanted to do. He's like, "Oh, I want to be a singer." And I love
Yeah,
this.
and then she goes on about that she wants her
Him
him
to
to sing for her,
He's
but
like,
he doesn't.
No, never.
And then that continues on later on.
Yeah, she's like, "You better fucking sing for me."
That was quite a funny moment. Yeah, actually, I did like. I really wanted him to sing. I was like, oh, please.
Yeah,
that
please
would be
sing
great.
Oh,
at
it
the
should have
end.
been an option for him singing.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, the most important parts, the monkeys.
Oh, the monkeys.
Yeah. So turns out the monkeys are just infected.
Yeah, but they're chill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
animals.
yeah,
Just
they're-
chilling.
yeah.
They don't care. They're infected.
Yeah.
They're
Just
just sort of,
jumping up and down, having a time of life.
having a good time with the
Yeah.
boys.
Because they go inside the uni and then find these recordings, and then you find out that guy has been bitten, And then you
he's
find him.
testing the monkeys, isn't he? And then he goes, "Oh, you guys need to be free because you've been through more than most." And then he goes, "Oh, you fucking bit me, you cunt."
Yeah, you fucking bit me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he dies. He probably killed himself because he didn't turn.
No.
Probably because of starvation, maybe.
I think so,
know.
because I
He
don't
probably
think he.
didn't like
I don't think he.
himself
shot
Yeah,
himself.
but
I
then
think
he
just
leaves
sat
behind
there.
a recording saying where the fireflies are, and then the cannibals come in.
Yeah, the hunters, they're back.
And then, you know, we try to get out of the union, and then Joel, this is one of the biggest scenes in the game, gets penetrated through the stomach with a iron rod.
That was so. I was like, when
Oh.
fuck. Really?
It's
Like, you have to look at it. That's the
Jesus
thing.
Christ!
Which is like,
I
oh.
had no idea that happened.
Like, there's some brutal scenes. Like, obviously, this game was made. People are saying Last of Us 2 looks so much more brutal. Like, no, Last of Us is brutal, but like the fact it was made on PS3 and just, you know, up-resed on a PS4, they didn't have enough the power and just even the graphics to like show it as much. You know, like it's still there. It's just not as realistic, you could even say.
That was still fucking intense though. That
Yeah.
scene where he gets the fucking shafted on that pole or something.
Yeah, or even earlier when they get attacked and Joel just gets a guy's head and just fucking smashes
That
it
was,
into
that was
the-
probably one of the most
the
intense. But
glass
that
tree.
entire section, I think, was just so fucking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, if it weren't for having seen some scenes of The Last of Us 2, I thought it would be the end of Joel. I thought it would generally die.
Yeah, if I didn't know there was another game coming out, I would have been like, well.
See, but like I did trailer teaser thing.
I had a feeling. I thought for some reason I just knew that he was alive. Probably saw him in a teaser or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I was like, okay, well, he's definitely like this is fuck. Like this is either going to last for the rest of the game. But I mean, it didn't. But I thought that there'd be some long-lasting effects, and there was for the majority of like the next section.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, they get out. Ellie says, "Oh, you're so gonna sing for me after this," and he's
After
like,
all this, yeah. And you know, she's
no.
killing all these people, and she gets them away. She gets them on the horse, and they leave. And as they're walking away from the university, Joel just falls off the horse. She's like, "Oh fuck!" Like, you know, she's trying her best. And then this is where we're going to talk about Left Behind. If for some reason you've played the main game but you haven't played Left Behind, I would leave times stamp where you can just skip this section, but play Left Behind obviously. So yeah, Left Behind. So there's two parts of it, you know, of Left Behind obviously. And if I'm being honest, it is kind of important to have this section in the current time as Ellie, you know, with Joel like trying to find the medicine for him. But I honestly would have preferred it would just been the stuff with Riley, because like I know it's important, but I feel like it could have been done without it as well.
Yeah, like I think it has a good structure because both sides of the story happen at a mall.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
the
Ellie
main thing.
reliving
It's
this,
because you're at the mall. Like that's what happens. Like Ellie remembers her time at the mall.
Yeah,
Obviously,
but
she's by
also
herself. So.
yeah, but like it's if it was just the mall back in like before the events of The Last of Us, I think it would be a very short DLC.
Oh yeah, it would have been
I
like
think
an
it would
hour.
be too short. So
I think it's still only like 2
was
hours,
quite
but-
sufficient to have that
Yeah.
story in between of how Ellie got Joel there, and it really shows that she really cares about him. I think the DLC is really good, but I'm playing through it now again in chronological order.
Yeah.
And it's a bit engaging than the first time.
Impactful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We see what happens with Riley and stuff, because that's what Ellie tells Joel at the end of the
The
game.
game. Yeah.
The story of how she got infected, and we see that. And like the first time I played through, I was just waiting for infected to come around and fuck us over, but it didn't happen.
It just wasn't happening. I know, and I love
wasn't.
that because you're
Yeah.
like, it is gonna happen, but you're having so much fun as well. Like it's stuff that they couldn't put.
That was
into-
another moment that reminded me of the Life is Strange sort of style of play, where you're just walking around interacting with objects. There's no like shooting or anything. It's all based on the interactions of the characters and the environment around you. So I thought that was again brilliantly done, like the first part of the game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like the Halloween store itself. I've probably spent a good 15 minutes in there, if not longer, just fucking around with every single thing, like putting on every single mask, using that that's called, I forgot what it's actually called in it. You know, like the magic 8-ball kind of thing in the skull. It's such a good bonding moment between Riley and Ellie. Like you can see they've been friends for a long time, obviously, and like all the games you're doing, all the fun stuff. The the carousel, the photo booth. The photo booth I love, but we'll get into that in a second. Because when you're playing as Ellie in the current time, trying to kill David's guys, because they are David's guys, it's really tense. Just there's clickers. You don't have that many. You don't have any ammo. Like, you basically start with nothing. Because if you're playing as Joel, obviously you have all your stuff that you've gotten through the game so far. If you're playing as Ellie, you have nothing. So it's even more tense than it would have been normally. So, you're going through the mall, you're going through the pharmacy, you're going to a toy store, which is fucking creepy as shit with all these different dolls and everything around you. The whole thing is just, it's so tense. So then having it contrast with the scene with Riley, like the areas with Riley, like that contrast between the two is just so good. It works perfectly. Playing as Ellie in the current time, it's so tense. Like, you don't have any ammunition, you have nothing really that you have as Joel, and having that be so tense with everything, and then it cutting and you playing as Ellie with Riley in this moment, like, there's still that tension because, like you said, you don't know when you'll see any infected, but it's also a time
it's coming. That's the thing.
But it's also a time where you can just relax a bit, just do all the fun games. I said the water guns.
It was purely character driven, and that's what I love. Like my favorite sections of any game tend to be the character driven moments. Yeah. So when they have those sections that are just like the characters bouncing off each other and doing things together, that really ranks up there for me. Yeah, like the Halloween store and stuff like that. And
or the joke book,
games.
When you get the joke book and you just talk about, like,
everything.
It's
See,
great.
that's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way they connected the DLC to the game is incredible.
Yeah.
Because in Pittsburgh, there's 5 times where Ellie can say something from the joke book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She gets from Riley.
And even obviously, Mario and I will get into slides and territories of the comic. Obviously, so right in the comic, Ellie meets Riley for the first time, and she doesn't really know about it. But like, Marlene is the one like sending Ellie to different schools, these boarding schools, because Marlene knew Ellie's mom, so she promised her like she'd mind her and stuff. So she always had people looking after her through the whole time. And there are sections, like in the comic, it happens like when Riley and Ellie I think Riley sneaks out to go after the fireflies or something, and
so
Ellie follows her
off randomly.
Yeah. So like Riley goes to the mall to meet up with Winston, which we learn in Left Behind as well.
Yeah, he goes he's
part of the army, but he's like buds with Riley, and then also becomes buds with Ellie, and he teaches Ellie how to ride on horseback through the mall. It's a really, really good scene. And then they save, in the comic, they save some fireflies from the army, and then they get noticed by the army, and then they are being shot at by the army, and then they run away and they come across a runner, and they almost get bitten, but they don't because they kill him. And then more runners come and they get saved by the fireflies, and then get like a bag on their head so they don't know where they're going. And then they meet up with Marlene, and Ellie then meets Marlene for the first time.
And Marlene knows who she is. She's like, Ellie, like, is that you kind of thing?
Hold on. I'm hungry.
That's fair enough. I can keep going. And then basically Ellie and and Riley have the fireflies twice, and so Riley is like, she wants to join the fireflies at this point. She's like, she tells Marlene like, oh, I'm ready and all this stuff. And Marlene grabs Riley and she shoves him against basically one of the dead fireflies. She's like, he was ready as well. He was ready to join the fireflies. And look at him now, essentially. He's dead.
And she'll say like, oh, I'll make a firefly out of you right now, and she points the gun at Riley. But in Left Behind, we learned that it was just a test to see if Riley was committed to being a firefly.
If she'd come back,
And then
it's actually a little bit fucked when you think about it.
Yeah.
That whole set, the way she tested a really young kid into how committed she is was a bit mental, but
I mean, that is if you do want to be in them, you have to be. And then we also find out about the knife, the switchblade, and there's the note thing. So basically, if you haven't read the comic, you don't know the switchblade that Ellie has is actually her mother's. Marlene gives it to her. She gives her the switchblade, and she gives her a note from her mom, doesn't she? I'm pretty sure she gives her
it's a letter from her mom, in which she wrote to Ellie. And the thing is, when you play as Ellie in the game, and you go into her backpack and look at artifacts, she has the letter and the switchblade.
Yeah, use the switchblade
books as well. It's really interesting.
So,
and then
is there anything else you want to say about the comic that ties into this?
Yeah, in the comic, like they wrap it up with Riley does not become a Firefly yet, but she wants to get out of the school. They go their separate ways, and we see Ellie in her room listening to her Walkman, and then when she has read the letter and she hugs the switchblade from her mother. It's a really good comic. I definitely recommend checking it out, because I literally checked it out last night on YouTube, and it was a great time. I thought it was a great comic.
It's really interesting, and it obviously ties in this whole like Left Behind thing. Like everything is connected in it. And so like, we going back to Left Behind. When you go, is it Winston? That's his name, right? Yeah. He's tent outside, like, in that kitchen, in the kind of barn he made for his horse, like that kind of area. You can find a note saying like, I came back to the tent and I saw Ellie crying, in the distance. Like, so he didn't want to go up to her. He didn't like know what to say, and so he felt really awkward, and so he just kind of left. So this obviously happens like after like Riley leaves or something. Like Ellie goes back to the mall and she's just sitting there like crying, and you pick that up as Ellie, I think, right? Yeah. And she's like, oh, how embarrassing, kind of like she says that, like he's seen her cry.
Yeah, so back to the whole Left Behind thing. You want to go into the
photo booth.
Photo booth.
Which that scene.
Yeah.
Oh.
The characterization in this, it's great. Obviously, you get to select the different poses. At the beginning, you select like the team. There's friendship, love, and everything. You choose all these different poses and stuff. Like you can share it to, it's like share to Facebook, and then she's like, oh. What's that? What's that? I'm like, what's that? And they try. She's like, I don't know. Put in your surname. She writes in her surname and like some password, and they'll say, like, oh, this doesn't work. So they keep hitting it. So realistic. They're both sitting there, and like I've been in a scene like that where you're just sitting there with like someone you like, and just like the kind of awkwardness, that silence. Like there's tension in the air between the two of them. That's when you notice like, oh, there's something more than just a friendship between them. And
I think part of the tension was down to the fact that they hadn't really properly expressed how they felt about
exactly.
One of them just fucking off and leaving for the Fireflies one day, and then just coming back in the middle of the night.
Yeah, so there's
I think that was, a lot of the tension was down to that.
Yeah,
as well.
There's that, and the whole like love essentially between the two of them, and they're just sitting there, so like they're both kind of sighing. They're like now looking at each other, so like, so what now? Like what are we gonna do? And they're like, let's just keep going. So they keep exploring. You go into the game room, which is great. That scene is amazing. Like when Ellie starts playing the game, and Riley's like, close your eyes. And like she closes her eyes, and the screen goes black, and then the titles come up, like the names of the characters and the bars, and you can start like, you start pressing like X and circle, like just the buttons, like as if you're playing like a fighter game, and you have to defeat the boss, like whatever his name is, I forgot. And just that whole thing, like it's so great. Like it takes you away from Last of Us, like the experience of Last of Us is, and puts you in a different place completely. And literally for that section alone, you forget about everything that The Last of Us is. Like it feels like you're playing something completely different. Like the way it's made, it's great, honestly. And then so they stop playing, and then they go into the other area of the mall. No, actually, I think this where they talk. I think they have a. Yeah, they have like a little argument kind of thing, and then the music is like playing. So then Riley runs away, Ellie starts running after her, and they walk out. And the music is playing, and then they have the proper conversation about it. Riley tells her, "It's like, yeah, so the Fireflies want me to leave, tomorrow. Like they want me to go to a different city." Ellie's like, you've always wanted this. So just go with them. The water gun fight happens, and they start dancing on the table to the music because Riley takes out her Ellie's Walkman, she plugs it in the tank, they start dancing, and then Ellie just stops, and she's like, don't go, thing, and she kisses her. When people talk about Left Behind, they talk about that, because people at this point, before Left Behind came out, they didn't know Ellie was gay, or people didn't know that, so it was a really big shock to to everyone. You know, like obviously it brought up a lot of controversies because people are dumb, but it was a great.
Well, that's the thing that
Last
people are worried about for The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Is are they going to push the agenda or not?
Exactly.
Because Robin Gaming did a really good video on it actually.
Yeah.
Where he goes in depth on it.
Yeah, but so anyway, you know, that whole scene. I think I was expecting it to happen, to be honest.
At this point,
I already knew it happened actually. That was the one thing I
because already
I knew it was going to come.
Yeah, I already knew that fucking Ellie was a lesbian from the whole trailer thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's really suits having that knowledge really made the scene a lot better. I think the whole dinner scene that Ben is having in 5 minute stops.
I was like, I knew you were gonna say something. I knew it.
But so yeah, after that we see that because of the music, the runners have noticed it. They come immediately after them, and they run away, and then in the end they do unfortunately get bitten by runners. And then Ellie is at first very mad, smashes pots but like she's so mad because she has basically been condemned to death.
Yeah.
Even though she does not know that she's immune. Like you have that final scene where they go like, "Oh, let's wait it out, become insane together," and that's like another relevant to the ending of Last of Us where she says that exact line.
Exactly.
And the thing was beautiful.
And the thing what Riley says, she's like, there's two options. You know, there's option A, and just the gun, they shoot themselves, or option B is where they wait it out. And she's like, and I don't like option A. Like whether it's 2 seconds or 2 days I get to spend with you, like any time I can spend with you is worth it.
Like back to the modern day section. So Ellie finds meds, shoots down the cannibal, shoots down infected, and then eventually manages to patch up Joel, thankfully. And then she carries him on a mattress across the country, some sort of house.
Yeah,
thing.
like a lakeside resort. Yeah, this is the next chapter in the main game then.
Yeah, that's an excerpt in the game. But overall, I found the DLC. In the first playthrough, it's really good. In the second playthrough, I just wanted to go through it. I did not have the same investment and interest as I did in the first.
Of course, yeah. Especially when you're playing them like so close to each other. Like the last time I played the DLC was 2014. Like, when the game was re-released on PS4. So even though I knew everything that happens, like I knew it's like, oh, there's gonna be not the comic shop. There's going to be the Halloween shop, there's going to be this, there's going to be the whole area, even in the modern day, where there's another generator thing where you have to do it as Ellie. There's nothing that is, like I knew it all, but like replaying it still, like it still hits, it's still good.
Mm-hmm. But what do you think of the DLC, Caitie?
Exactly, because you don't talk. Did you say
I mean, like as you say, it really helps to build up character. It really gives a relationship depth, Yeah. Which I just like how they gave back like a backstory to how Ellie got bit, because
we literally don't know anything about how she got bit. Like we just know it's been 3 weeks, so this obviously happens about 3 weeks before the main game, which is really close when it comes to like DLCs there. But yeah, I mean that's honestly all there is to say. It's a great DLC. Obviously, it's really cheap. So if you haven't played it for some reason, do it.
Get it with the remastered version.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy it standalone as well, actually.
Yeah.
PS4, you don't buy the remake. Okay.
So then we move on to winter. We, if you just play the game regularly, you haven't had the DLC, but we just talked about the DLC. So, Ellie has patched up Joel, and now he's just in a garage somewhere. And then Ellie goes out hunting from time to time because they do need to survive. And she shoots a rabbit and like, this won't last long. Then she sees a deer and she goes after it, shoots it a couple of times. And that's where she meets David.
Who is played by none other than Nolan North.
Oh, well,
and if you haven't noted, like, it is so hard to realize, like, because obviously Troy Baker, great actor. He plays the Joker, he plays all these different people, With Nolan North, like, that's Nathan Drake. He's playing David. It does not sound anything like it.
Nolan North is also the Joker.
Yeah, he is. That's actually a good point. He is indeed. But yeah, no, fucking David. Let's talk about David for a second.
Yeah, so David, first, like...
You still like him at first. I was like, actually, this guy seems alright.
Yeah, at first I was like,
a bit aggressive unnecessarily. He seems like an okay bloke. Turns out he's a bit of a big Nancy Dave, but
Yeah.
Nancy Dave.
And
And I had about
like,
this.
you have like the whole shooting infected things, while the other guy gets to get meds for Ellie.
the big
And
bloater.
they start a bit of sort of fire.
Yeah, that's like
And
one
the
of the
rest
most
play it.
Uncharted moments, to be fair. Like that scene when you're like go up the bridge, and you're there's like waves of enemies coming over. Like that is such an Uncharted thing with like waves coming at you and over and over.
Fucking screaming of infected. Ugh.
Like I hate it. Like I love it, but I fucking hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
And they have the big bloater.
Freaking
Yeah, but you get given you get given the right stuff to make Molotovs, so
Yeah.
In my
it's
notes, it
like
literally just
them
says
on fire.
David / pedophile.
That's me.
But
Fucking
then,
hell.
like, then you're like, oh, this guy we can trust. Maybe we can meet up with the folks that he's protecting.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
sort of looking, I was like, I hope we can have like a little, stop by. He's gonna patch us up and send us on our merry way. I thought that was gonna happen, but
Nah.
no.
But then, like that whole reveal scene of like, oh, I sent men out at the university, and then I heard stories about a madman with a girl, and you're like, oh shit, he's the one who sent.
Yeah,
Them
he's
after
just sitting there. I
us.
was like, I forgot about that.
Ellie
Yeah,
takes the meds and goes back to Joel, and then
yeah, she had to go back, yeah.
she, I don't know, does she do anything with the meds, or does she just leave them there?
Yeah, no, she uses the syringe to
Oh
Yeah.
put the pins
Yeah,
And
on
she,
the
yeah.
side.
she goes to sleep with
That's about it.
Yeah, and then she
sleeps
wakes
next to
up
him.
and sees that the cannibals
They're
are
outside, yeah.
there. So to distract them, she goes with Callus, which is a name
What a
hated by
good
Joel.
boy.
Right? But
Such a weird fucking name.
It's Ellie.
Yeah.
What do you think? You sound like Joel right now. It's like, what a name. Like, what a weird name. It's like, hey, man.
But then, of course, she goes off to distract him from Joel. But then, Ellie distracts the cannibals from Joel. And then eventually, Callus fucking dies. They
Yeah.
killed
Oh
him.
yeah, he goes down.
Oh,
They fall down that thing, and Callus is just fucking dead on the floor.
fucking hell.
Yeah.
And then, she goes into that city and eventually goes to like an inn. And then she has killed all these guys, and then eventually she gets captured by
Yeah,
David.
she's about to walk out, and yeah, David.
And that's when he's like proper Nancy Dave, and he's just like being
Oh,
weirdo.
Yeah, she gets her captured, and he's like, oh, what's your name? All that kind of thing. And like, she doesn't tell him, and then like, and he's like, oh, what I'm going to tell them now? And he's walking around, and it's like, and he's walking around, he's like, my name is Ellie. It's like, you can tell them that Ellie, whatever
It's
she
the little
said,
girl that broke your fucking
finger,
finger.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
And then his friend, I keep forgetting his name, the guy who's there for like a second, fucking John, or whatever his name is.
John Doe.
John, yeah, exactly. Just the guy that's with him, obviously. They like take her out, they put her on the table, and Ellie's like, I'm infected. Like, she bites, while that's happening, she bites David. She's like, I'm infected. He's like, oh, you're lying. And she's like, look, they look at it, and they see the bite, and he's like, no, that makes no sense. Like, she would have turned by now. And while they're distracted and confused by it, she stabs them. Like, she manages to run away. She's running away through the thing, like killing more people and stuff. And then she reaches that restaurant area.
Yeah, but first we switch back to Joel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, so she reaches that, but then same thing. Essentially, at the same time, the Joel thing is happening. So Joel wakes up and he's like, like, Ellie, like, where is she? That stuff. He grabs these things and he goes and he sees people on the way. He starts killing them. And honestly, when I was playing at this point as Joel, I was not sneaking around. And I wish they did something like, there's moments in the game, like when you're hanging upside down a boost trap, where there isn't limited ammo. I wish that happened here, so you can just go like full out and you're just fucking killing everyone. Because that's what I did. I wasn't hiding. I was just like pulling out the shotgun, just fucking going through everyone, just killing every single person in the way. I was like, nah, fuck this. Like, they deserve this. Like, they ain't touching my girl. Like, as in Joel's. And then we had that great interrogation scene with.
The interrogation scene.
Yeah, that was like peak Joel, where he goes back to
literally, like, on my things, it's like, this is the real Joel. Like, in my notes, that's why I wrote
Bad
that.
Joel.
Like,
yeah, because he's so desperate to find Ellie.
Yeah.
Like that he would do anything. And then we see that also again right at the end of the game when he asks that guard for where she is, and then he shoots him twice in the stomach before he tells him, and then he just kills him.
Yeah.
Same thing happened here with the interrogation.
Mhm.
He says like, "Oh, I already know enough. Your buddy told the truth," and then he shoots the other guy.
Yeah.
It really shows that, like, again, when you look at the beginning of the game to this point, they really have a father and daughter relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, when Joel is with Ellie, I feel like she calms him down a bit. But like Tommy himself said earlier when we're with Tommy, like, you've made me do all these things, like, you know, they don't talk about it. He's like, I made you do this to survive. Like, Joel has done stuff we don't know about. Like, he has murdered people recklessly. He has done some fucked up shit.
When you find the hunters and like you run over the guy,
yeah,
he says he's been on both sides.
yeah, exactly.
So he already knows some fucked up shit in the past.
He's done some fucked stuff. So like he's just like, nah, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do whatever it takes, you know, to get her. And then we switch back to Ellie. We have that whole boss fight thing with David essentially, which honestly I found pretty cool. You know, the whole building is like on fire. You're sneaking around. You're stabbing him, and then at the end, like, you're both on the ground, and you're like walking towards the machete, like you're crawling. When you're playing as Joel, you reach the building, but then like that's happening at the same time. And then so you're crawling towards it. You're about to get it, and Dave is like right on top of you, and then he just fucking dies.
Yeah, like if Ellie just keeps stabbing him in the head, and then Joel has to calm down Ellie for once.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's when, you know, Ellie is crying and
Joel calls her baby girl. Which,
like
and
then that's the thing, right?
It's a nod to Sarah.
But like when you move on to the next chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he firstly opens with Kiddo.
Yeah.
He says he's going to teach her how to
play guitar and swim.
Yeah, play guitar, learn how to swim, that kind of stuff.
In the Buzz Depot area, which is
So basically, the role that Sarah left in Joel's life has been replaced by Ellie. And the same thing for Ellie with like a parent, because she never had a parent.
Yeah.
Like Joel fits that role. That's when you realize they are father
and daughter at this point, yeah. And then I think it cuts to spring. You know, we go through Buzz Depot. We're not really going to talk about it. There isn't that much that happens. Some infected stuff, you know. The ending is the most important part, really. But there is that. No, actually, yeah, the Buzz Depot thing is where we see the giraffes, right?
What?
The Buzz Depot area. It's mixed in with the lab, because the lab itself is a chapter, but the Buzz Depot and the hospital, like that whole area is one thing. So it obviously starts like the beginning is like Ellie's really quiet. She's like obviously really sad. Like she's depressed about everything that just fucking happened. She's traumatized. You know, she could have been fucking killed. She could have been raped. She could have whatever it could have been. Like, so, you know, like Joel is trying to talk to her, and like he's like, oh, you know, like, help me get the ladder here, and she's like, nobody comes up to you. Like, you go up, you press the triangle, and like Ellie's not coming, and you're like, what the fuck? You do it again, and he's like, Ellie, and it's like, you know, he calls her. She's sitting there by herself, just really quiet. She's like, oh yeah. So she comes over, she climbs it, and she's like, oh my god, you have to see this. And you're like, what the fuck? What is it? Is it a clicker or whatever? And you go up, and it's beautiful. Like, you look out, and like all the lights, you know, the sun is shining in, everything. And you start walking with Ellie, and then you see the giraffes.
Oh yeah, the giraffe bit was so good.
So the giraffe scene, like, you know, you're outside, you're looking at the giraffes, like, you know, obviously all the animals have taken over this whole area. But like you see like Ellie actually, you know, like, proper like smiling, because like literally the past like 10-15 minutes, whatever, probably not just 10 minutes, she's obviously really sad. She's not responding to Joel. She's talking inside her own mind, and now she's like, you know, really happy. She feels something good again, you know. She's like, feels some hope. And the thing is, giraffes come over throughout the game. They're a sign of innocence. They're in Sarah's room. They're in different like kids' rooms. They're in the toy store. Like, they're in different areas. There's like giraffes. Like, and then we get out, and you're exploring a camp kind of area. But Ellie's like, oh, Joel, I have something for you. And he's like, you know, what is it? And she pulls out the photo that Tommy wanted to give him, of him and Sarah. Like Maria has given to her. And he takes it. He's like, oh, yeah, thank you.
And that's also the thing. When you were playing as Ellie and go into her backpack, you can also see the picture.
Yeah.
They really, really have like that.
Yeah.
Like, such little detail is great.
Like, that's the thing with
Naughty
Naughty Dog. It's all the little details. Like Mario, if you haven't played Uncharted games, play them. The details, especially in 4, are great.
Oh, by the way, when I was a bit of a side note, when I was playing this, I went to the toy store. They have Uncharted board game.
Yeah, there's Uncharted, there's Jack Daxter. Yeah, and in the Halloween store, there's an Uncharted and Jack and Daxter costume.
Yeah, there's a Jack machine, yeah.
And then, so this whole area comes, and, you know, like, we get through the water area, and they're like climbing over on the bus and stuff. Joel falls in. Ellie jumps after him. She tries to save him, and then she
tries to break the window open.
Exactly, she
Yeah,
does.
but
She
she
falls
can't
down.
swim, so she can't
Joel
drown.
swims after her, and he gets her out. He's trying to save her. She's like, she can't breathe, and because obviously the fireflies show up. And they're like, hands up, like all that stuff. And he's like, she can't breathe. He doesn't give a fuck about what they're doing. He's trying to save her, and they just knock him out.
And then he wakes up, and he learns about he sees Marlene again, and he learns that they can find a cure. She's ready for
Surgery.
operation.
Yeah.
Surgery. Yeah. And then he finds out that
She's got to die if they want to.
yeah, it has mutated to the brain, and then if they remove it, she'll die. He immediately goes find someone else, and it's basically the same with Sarah. He can't lose another daughter again.
Yeah.
Because it's literally the same thing.
That's when he goes on a fucking mad one.
Yeah, and then he gets knocked.
That's when you get the assault rifle. That was the most.
Yeah. But like you then you are being escorted outside, but then Joel
sees his bag.
He does like a reverse card basically.
No.
He asks like, where is she? And he says, don't have time for this. He just immediately shoots him in his stomach. The guy's like, where is she? He does it again, and then he finally hears where she is.
Top floor,
and then just kills him instantly. And then you get that whole section of the hospital, and you can
apparently you can actually completely skip killing anyone. If you go one direct way, you can kill one person and get through the whole thing. I didn't. I fucking spent at least half an hour trying to kill everyone.
And I only let
I just shot them all.
I just killed it.
I was
nail bombs everything.
I had no nail bombs or anything. I just fucking kept shooting
it
people.
also adds to
Probably after stuff.
Oh, it for sure does, yeah.
Yeah, but so you get through that very intense section. You can see that Joel really cares about Ellie. Like you have seen before, but like this is serious.
Yeah.
She is literally about to die, and then you get to the
operating room.
Yeah.
And then
I completely botched this bit so badly.
What you
Oh,
do?
I remember.
remember.
Oh my god.
Wait, what did you do? What did you...
I didn't want to shoot the doctor because I was like, hey.
Yeah, you don't actually have to.
Okay, so what do I do now? And I was like walking around like, do I just go back out or what? And then I was like, oh shit, wait, it took me like 10 minutes to realise that I've got to go actually up to the doctor and then grab Ellie, and so I was like, oh.
Yeah,
so
you have to kill the doctor,
okay.
but you have an option to kill the nurses. I killed the nurses. I was like, fuck this, I'm killing everyone.
No, I just killed the doctor.
No, I was like, nobody's going
see,
after
that's
me.
what I did. I went up to the doctor, and Joel just grabs the knife and
stabs him. I was like, oh, I didn't
mean to do that.
I just wanted to just grab Ellie and run.
Yeah, and then I grab Ellie and, get out of there.
Yeah, no, I was like, fuck you. I shot the surgeon in the head, and then the nurses were like, no, don't kill me. But I was like, I don't give a fuck. None of you are coming after me. I killed them. I'm like, shoot the fucking nurses. I don't care. You grab Ellie. You're fucking running away. You go to the elevator. You go down to the basement. Who's there?
Marlene.
It's Marlene.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can still do this. Like, we can still do this. You can, we can still get the cure. And and, there's a whole like conversation between them. And he's like, nah, like.
Yeah, I mean, you first skip over to the car, and you're like, oh. And at first, I knew that she, that he didn't leave her, but like. And then you have this like, oh, did he leave her? Oh,
Ellie wakes up in the car and have a conversation.
So Joel shoots Marlene, and then Marlene says, "Stop, let me live," and he just goes, "You would just go after us," and then he shoots her in the head. That was
and you can watch them. There's a video where they actually do this scene, like in the motion captures things, and it's so good. It is so good. You should definitely watch it. You can easily watch it.
Yeah,
that's
they do the opera bit.
scene. Yeah, the opera thing. Oh my, yeah, they start singing it. Oh my god, I completely forgot. Ben, have you ever seen that actually?
That's my ending. That's my true ending.
Ben,
this is my ending.
Have you seen it, Ben?
What?
Have you seen the opera version?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. So it's the last scene. It's the hospital scene. That scene, but they're singing the whole thing. It's great.
Yeah. You should check it out.
And then so it cuts, and then we go back to it's about to be summer again, kind of late spring area time, and we're playing as Ellie now, and we're outside Jackson, and she's obviously Joel is trying to make small talk, but Ellie's a bit quiet. Something is wrong. She the scene starts with her looking at her arm. You climb up the thing, and then before we go there, she asks him that did everything you told me about the Fireflies promise me it was the truth. And he's like, I swear. And she just says, okay. Which
yes. Before that, she
she tells the whole thing about Riley.
Yeah, she just goes
I wasn't alone.
Yeah, she tells the story, and then Joel just goes I've done a lot for surviving. You just need to find something worth fighting for, worth living for.
Yeah.
And that whole bit is great. And then tell me if everything about the Fireflies is true. And he just goes, I swear. And that leads into Last of Us 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it will be,
definitely
talked about because it's a major thing.
But that thing, the way she says okay, it's like the way you say okay when the person's lying to you, but you just don't want to break their heart. You're like, okay, that kind of thing. And that's it. That is The Last of Us. So obviously we all love the game and we all love the DLC. It is literally my favorite game of all time. I have a Firefly tattoo on my arm.
Don't praise it. don't act like you're a fucking ball.
Dirty Firefly.
So Last of Us 2.
I
know nothing. I genuinely know nothing. All I know is that there's that enemy type.
I just want to delve a bit. I want to give a bit of a,
shout out, special mention.
I want to overall thoughts on the game and what we talked about previously. So basically, The Last of Us is one of the greatest story games I've played. Definitely in my top 10. I don't know, where does it rank for you, Caitie?
Probably, well, after actually playing it myself, probably top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. The story carries the game a lot.
Yeah, I mean that is I think the characters as well, especially the story and characters are that is the game. That is what the game is. I think personally, I'd go. I think Uncharted 4 is Naughty Dog's best game overall in terms of story. The Last of Us is the best game, but
gameplay wise,
I'd say personally, I think it's on par with Uncharted 2, and I'd say The Last of Us. I haven't properly thought out my top 10 games ever. I'd say easily top 15, probably top 10.
Fair enough.
The whole game relies on the story. That's what makes it so great,
Yeah.
And
it's Joel and Ellie's development. And
that's so good. One of the best bonding
experiences.
Yeah, it's one of the best in storytelling. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, but into one of the best stories to ever be made, I think.
Yeah, overall exist.
Awesome.
Whether it's novels, movies, games, it is an incredible story. And the thing is, obviously there is going to be the HBO, the series and stuff, but I feel like the only way you can really tell this story is through a video game. All these little things that you pick up while playing the game, like we said, the notes and just even the stuff that happened, just the gameplay bits, Ellie getting a gun finally, she obviously, Ellie helps you throughout the game when you're in trouble. She stabs people, but when she gets a gun, she gets shoot the people. Just little things. It's the little things that Naughty Dog does with their games that add together to this fucking amazing experience.
I do think with the HBO show that they do have the enough time for it because it's a show, not a movie.
Yeah.
So they can easily do it. Overall, the game will probably always be better, but will still be very.
Is the show an adaptation of the
first
game?
One? Yeah, it's going to be based on the game, and it is Neil Druckmann's working on it. So.
Yes, it could be right.
Really can expand on.
I mean, it's literally going to be the same story because it's going to be the same director.
It could be shit.
And obviously it's directed by the guy who did.
Oh, it better not be.
I mean, I don't really care. Like, if it's good, it's good. If it's shit, I'm not gonna cry. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm not excited for it. So
Still got the game anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
The game is what matters.
The game's like the bit that, like, if the Last of Us Part 2 is shit, then I'm gonna be like, well, pointed. But if the season is shit, I'm not going to care at all.
Yeah.
Because we've already got the game to narrate it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And yeah, speaking.
But anyway, speaking of The Last of Us 2,
yeah, I was literally going to say that. Fuck you. I was going to say, speaking of Last of Us 2, what do you think is going to happen?
In The Last of Us Part 2?
Yeah.
Someone's going to die.
I
Joel
have a feeling Dina's. Oh, I think it's Dina. She's definitely going to die.
Yeah.
She'll die at the start of the game.
Yeah.
It just hints at it.
We know it's a revenge
literally
story.
every trailer.
She'll die at the start of the game.
I think it's like, they go out on that patrolling thing, her and Dina and like a few others. They get, Dina and her go like their own way. They get attacked by infected. Something happens where like some people come over. I think they kill Dina.
I reckon Joel already's going to die at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking
all
Because we also, in the
awesome.
trailer, in like
One
one
of
of the
them will
newest
die, I reckon.
things, we see Jackson is on fire. So I think while this is happening, I think people are going to burn down Jackson. And
I think that's probably what, like,
that's what's.
I mean, that's what, you're gonna start off in Jackson. You're
Yeah.
gonna start off in Jackson, and then life's gonna be all right, and then fucking so much shit's gonna happen. Dina's gonna die. Then you have to go on another journey to find some. We don't know what. Maybe
Yeah.
there's like a place where we can
Revenge,
sort out a cure or something like that, and we have to go across the land and fuck shit up and
Yeah, because
find
it
a
is.
cure.
They said it's a revenge story. The first game was a love story, like like bonding and like father-daughter relationship. This is a revenge story, so I think they're gonna burn down Jackson, kill Dina, all these people. Like it's her home. Like she's been living there. Like this is like 4 years later or something. 4 or 5 years. So obviously she cares about all these people. She cares about this place. Like she's finally living a normal life, and people are gonna fuck it up for her. And she's just like, I have enough of this. I'm going killing you all. And whatever's gonna happen, I have honestly no other ideas, no other speculations.
I think the gameplay is gonna be basically the same.
Yeah, just better.
Just updated to 2020. I really can't see them like. They don't really like the gameplay was always there to just complement the story and like back up what was already happening, but like. There's no real reason to like really overhaul it or make it anything more than it already was.
Yeah,
so I think they're just going to update it and
like
make it what it needs to be.
In themselves, it is going to be more, like realistic. It's going to be more fluid. Like we are playing as Ellie. It's going to feel different to play as her. Like she's lighter, she's quicker than Joel. Obviously,
more experience.
The difference between even Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 has these like huge open areas. Like when you're like in Africa. And you're going to those
you're driving across the land and shit.
There's gonna be
yeah.
areas that size, if not even bigger, in The Last of Us. Like there we saw that thing recently. Like she's riding a horse. It's like a big open area in Seattle. Like obviously, even what we've seen, the first demo we've seen, the AI they like care about each other. They have names for each other. They have names for the dogs. They have If you hide underneath a car, they will look underneath the car to look for you. Like they're not gonna just like in other games, you've disappeared. This person doesn't exist anymore. They just go back to a routine, just walking around.
Actually,
they will look.
They'll
for
actually
you.
react to a character.
They will look for you.
Like fuck.
It's like
exactly.
Shit, like fucking Dave died. Like who the fuck is
Monty Dave?
Monty Dave died.
Really
like fucking hell. What about you, Mario?
I reckon, I think with wait, are you asking Mario? What?
No, sorry, go on.
I think the game's gonna be more stealth. Focused because especially with things like long grass and stuff like that all contributing to ways you can hide under cars and shit like that rather than just like hiding around a corner. I think they're gonna add
especially
many
since they're
more
going to use stalkers more.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have to hide way more than you
From looking at trailers and such, I think it's pretty confident to say that the love interest of Ellie is going to die.
Yeah.
It's basically a confirmation because of what we've seen and how they talk about it. They don't straight out say, but it's heavily implied. Or maybe they're doing like, oh, haha, jokes on you. She's actually the main enemy of the game.
She's actually David.
She's David. David's daughter. She's actually
Oh.
Yeah, so like I assume Dan that Ellie just goes out seeking revenge against this. The people that did this to her and Jackson.
Yeah.
But I think the story will take a bit of a twist with Joel and how he lied to her at the end of the game
previous game.
I really hope that Joel, like, I can sort of see him doing it and it worries me, but I really don't want Joel to take like a backseat in the game. I really hope they focus on.
At least the main character, and we've mostly seen her, but there's also a part
We
of the
know
game
Joel's there, where Joel shows up and goes, "I'm not going to let you do this alone."
exactly.
Yeah,
So I
see more
really,
of that.
really hope that Joel isn't just like casted to the side, like.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope like once Joe goes, like, you really think I would let you do this on your own? I really hope we get the same stuff in Last of Us 1, where it's like a player and an AI
Yeah.
going on it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really enjoy the alone sections as much because it was just like mindlessly
It
sort of
makes it
going
more
through-
scarier.
It is more
Yeah,
scary.
and you just sort of mindlessly going
No,
through
it does
enemy
feel better
next
when there's
enemy,
someone
next
there
enemy,
with
whereas
you.
like when you're with someone else, you feel like the relationship dynamic
Yeah.
and them
I think
bouncing off each other, and it's just a lot more fun.
yeah, like that has worked with previous game, but also with God of War.
Yeah.
Simply just two people on an adventure, on like a
Yeah.
journey.
God of War was amazing.
And it really works well. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get like some alone Ellie moments, like maybe a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I do want them to at least have that relationship gameplay. if you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
it for sure would be
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Like, it has to be. Like, even if it's not just Joel, like, there's other characters, like, what's her name in the beginning? We just said.
Dina.
Yeah. Her, and, like, there's that. There's another character we get introduced to in one of the trailers, this, like, Asian guy.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know his name, I don't
I
think.
have no idea.
I don't really care about them anyway.
But we don't at the moment because we have no idea who they are. But I think that we will, meet a lot of new characters. We will.
It'll probably help
like
us
that.
along the way.
And obviously, quickly to say, we don't talk about the multiplayer because I am the only one who have played it so far. I enjoyed it. You guys haven't played it. If you have the game installed, you can still play it. It's pretty fun. But yeah, that's about it for the multiplayer.
They're gonna do multiplayer in Last of Us 2, right?
Yeah, it's not gonna be on release.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like a standalone thing later on.
Yeah, probably.
I'd like it to be like some sort of co-op.
Yeah.
Be fun if you could do like co-op missions and stuff, and you have to like maybe if you're playing as like soldiers and you've got to get through areas or something like that. And you've got to
you know what?
Yeah, a bit like what they did with Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Where you play as
Like the
soldier.
multiplayer thing is pretty fun because like it's you versus just other players. And there's different game modes where you like just the real regular team deathmatch and stuff. You have to kill the others.
I don't think I'd beat it. Like, that doesn't really bother me. I'm
They
not
don't.
care
It
about
doesn't sound fun.
players. I
It
think
is actually really fun.
co-op missions.
Yeah,
co-op
missions I would love,
definitely
yeah.
would be really
But there
cool.
are stuff
I
like
think co-op missions are also really, because like Last of Us again, it's just all about relationships. If you have co-op, that's great because you do it with other people.
And like, I think it would be really like tactical based co-op missions. You have to communicate and work
Makes
out
you really think.
how you're gonna like get through this area and how you're gonna take out these different people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be like a lot of fun.
What would be cool, right, is to not just have it be create your own character, but you are playing an actual character. And for example,
like a story.
Yeah, for example, you're from Jackson. You and a few other blokes are out searching for for Jackson, searching for supplies and stuff, and you come across all these different things.
Yeah.
I think it would be really great. Obviously, not gonna happen though.
That could be its own game. That could literally be its own game. Like maybe like a.
Yeah.
No, that's what I
game,
think they're doing. I
but,
don't think it's going to come with the game. I think they're going to release like because there were leaks for like a Last of Us thing. I forgot what it's called now. Like a standalone like multiplayer basically game. And I think they're going to just release that after a while. It could be even just a PS5 release or something. Where it's just like a co-op thing or something. Just like I think like Kate said, Resident Evil 2 was meant to have, I think it was Resident Evil Quarantine or something, whatever it was called, was meant to be its own thing, single game where it's just the multiplayer stuff. But then they did bring it into Resident Evil 2 remake. So I think they're going to do something similar.
I mean, I think they'll just do like a standalone. Like if you've ever played A Way Out, it requires like 2 players to play it.
Yeah.
You play these 2 different main characters, and you go through this story together. And there's cutscenes with both of your characters. I think if they did like a standalone game like that, would be so cool for The Last of Us.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Like basically, you build, like, of course you play with friends, but like you also build the relationship between those 2 characters that you play. I think really good.
Definitely. Just add to just world building, really.
Yeah, so actually, basically, Last of Us, but then with 2 players.
Yeah.
It's like it could be 2 characters that
Only has to
actually
be,
hate each other, and then you start building it up.
Up building, you end up shooting each other.
And Naughty
in the
Dog
end.
has Not
So
all kinds
kind
of
of-
teams within the studio. They could even
Oh,
make
at the
a
end, one of
team.
them gets
to-
infected. And you have like
Oh, yeah.
You have to shoot or like you both get infected and you have to shoot each other, something like that.
Mm.
Or just sit there,
Holy
lose
fuck.
your minds together, be all poetic. Alright, is that it? Is that everything we want to say? Is there anything else you want to say about the game or The Last of Us Part 2 or anything?
I'm really excited for Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, and it is
that-
currently
Give me Mario.
exactly
Give
2
me
weeks.
a
exactly 2 weeks.
four-word summary of The Last of Us.
of The Last of Us.
Yeah, 4-word summary of The Last of Us.
Oh wait, I have so 4-word summary.
I have one.
Of The Last of Us, yeah.
It is fucking mental.
Lots of people die.
I'm gonna go for big ol' Nancy Dave.
And Ellie, fucking hell. This is your profile
yeah,
pictures,
we're
Ellie. So what 4 words do you have?
Yeah, 4-word summary.
What a fucking game.
There we go.
That is
What a
4.
way- It is.
I had to count my fingers just to make sure.
Yeah, I did boy, I was like,
Thanks for watching, everyone.
gamer goodbye.
Gamer
Goodbye.
Make sure you subscribe to everyone.
Make sure
and,
you subscribe to everyone.
If you are interested in open world detective games, I'll put a video for you.
Anyway, thank you all for watching this podcast thing. You can follow me on Twitter at Mario5380. You can subscribe to me on YouTube at Mario5380. You can also do the same thing for Modorox. Modorox.
He knows
You
rain.
can follow me on Twitter at Modorox_, and then you've got Modorox, the YouTube channel, which is, if you search it, you'll find it. And if you like Assassin's Creed content, sub to Walshie, and Walshie's
That is
a
so
good guy.
random.
And
And I don't know. Also,
that's it from me.
we should next time we will get Mario. What was his name? The guy from the multiplayer thing.
Pinocchio.
No, the
Oh,
fucking
Johnny.
Johnny O'Johnny.
Oh, Johnny. No.
Next time we'll have Johnny O'Johnny on the podcast.
Never.
Alright, thanks for watching again, guys. Goodbye.
See you later.
Gamer, goodbye.